We'll call this meeting of the York County Council to order. Councilman Britt Blackwell to give the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
If you'd bow your heads with me. Our Father, we come to you asking for your blessing and help as we gather for this council meeting. We pray for your guidance in our discussions, and we ask you to clearly show us how to conduct our work for the benefit of all York County citizens. In your name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which I stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Kendry, oath of offices. Would James Neely, Charles Robinson, Steve Trippey, Peter McVean, and Ryan Murray please come forward?
Mr. Chairman and Council, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Wanted to basically just kind of go through our quarterly update on what's going on with Visit York County. As far as hotels are concerned, just to give you a little bit of an update there, last week, the week of August 2nd through the 8th, our occupancy on Cherry Road was 60%. It's down 4.2% for that same week last year. Highway 160 was 38.4% last week. That is predominantly a corporate travel exit. We're not seeing that come back yet. We are anticipating some of that coming back in the fourth quarter. Carowinds Boulevard, better than we thought, considering Carowinds has not been open. Right at 45% occupancy last week, down 21.8%. And Dave Lyle was at 63.6% last week, down 13.2%. As far as a market update, in July we had 2 hotels open, our Home 2 Suites in Fort Mill, along with the True by Hilton in Fort Mill. In August, Wood Spring Suites at Carowinds Boulevard opened. Under construction, we have the Cambria in Rock Hill, which is beside the Sports and Events Center, Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Rock Hill, the Avid in Fort Mill, and Town Place Suites in Fort Mill at Carowinds Boulevard. We have two that are under remodel and rebranding, one in Rock Hill, one in Fort Mill. Very exciting about the one in Fort Mill, going to be really good for that market. 7 other hotels ready to begin construction, have either been approved, permitted, or are ready to break ground. So a lot of supply going up in our hotels. As far as our preferred hotel program, we have merged our preferred hotels with the Rock Hill PRT host hotel program. We are administering that program for both organizations. We are handling all leads for Visit York County and for Rock Hill PRT. We have 17 hotels now in the program. We've increased 5 since I talked with you last. Our goal is to have 20 hotels in the program by the end of 2020. As far as marketing and communications go, since July 1, and we've really been focusing on outdoor adventures. So since July 1, our page views on our website are up 46%. Our new users are up 62%. Our Atlanta market is up 116%. This goes back to the data that I shared with you. I'm going to share a little bit with you tonight. The data I shared with you in February regarding our mobile location data, that we are getting information on where our visitors are coming from. That's making us very strategic in how we do our marketing. This is a prime example of this. Our Atlanta market, our Atlanta traffic is up 116%. Our Raleigh traffic is up 347%. That is the direct effect of marketing that we're doing in those locations. As far as digital ads go, since July 1, we've served 1.3 million impressions in those target markets that we're going after, resulting in 2,300 people coming to our website. Now, we've been mentioning over 60 pieces of media coverage since May 1st. We've had 7 features on WBTV. We've had 6 features on WCCB's Wilson's World. We've had 3 features on Spectrum News in Charlotte. We've had 2 features in Charlotte Agenda, which is a Charlotte lifestyle guide with an audience of over 280,000 people on Instagram and Facebook. We've pitched the 2 pieces that we had featured. We had Windy Hills drive-through sales and 20 things to do in Fort Mill. We've also done a feature of Rock Hills Bakery candies, sweets, and treats that we pitched to Travel Noir, a black travel magazine with an audience of over 900,000 between Instagram and Facebook. So just a part of what we do for our local businesses. Now, this is Jamarcus Gaston. Jamarcus Gaston is an influencer and TV personality in the upstate of South Carolina. He's in the Greenville-Spartanburg market. He spent 3 days with us last week, going to different locations throughout York County, putting them on social media, putting them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. He will also be doing 2 features on York Carolina, which is on WSPA in Spartanburg. Jamarcus went to places such as Kings Mountain National Military Park, Papa Doc's Shore Club, went to Camp Canaan Zipline Canopy Tour, Slow Play Brewing. He hit Kycb. A little bit of everything. So this is one of our things that we're focusing on, is bringing in those influencers, people that have a reach in their market, bringing them to York County, getting them to experience what we have to offer, and then going back to their market and telling people about it. The engagement on this has been tremendous. Football City USA, I know you guys are addressing that somewhat tonight. Want to tell you a little bit about how we play in with Football City USA. We have a page on our website strictly for Football City USA. When I want to say it was Benjamin Watson, when he was introduced on Monday Night Football, he said Football City USA. People started Googling Football City USA. The page on our website has over 30,000 page views from organic traffic. When you Google Football City USA, Visit York County is the first website that is at the top of the list. it is a huge deal for us from a marketing perspective. More than 1,000 tags on Instagram featuring that hashtag. We have 3 blogs up right now with talking to some Football City favorites, asking them 10 questions about York County. It's really been a pretty neat deal. Tori Gurley, Jonathan Meeks, and Mason Rudolph have participated in that. We are working on Stephen Gilmore right now. This organic initiative is something that we can really market, and it could be a tremendous tourism driver to Rock Hill and York County. Because if you talk about Football City USA right now, there's only Rock Hill to talk about. There's nothing specific in Rock Hill. We've got some ideas on some destinations inside of Rock Hill that can really take this to a different level. But it needs a destination, and it needs somewhere to go. And I think what you're talking about tonight is a good first step in that direction. You know, Rock Hill's known for a lot of great things. York County's known for a lot of great things. But Football City USA is something that you can really grab hold of and you can take to a different level. We have 33 players from Rock Hill that have played in the NFL. I don't think there's another community like that, so we might as well embrace it while we have the opportunity. Another area that we're focusing on is the Catawba River. Now, we've been promoting the Catawba on social media and blogs to promote tubing and kayaking on the river. That has been a significant initiative for us. We average approximately 1,000 to 1,500 page views a week on our tubing and kayaking section on our website. It's a lot of traffic for just one area. We had to pull back on that promotion because of logistical problems, meaning that there were too many people on the river, too many people going to the dam, too many people getting out at Riverwalk. So we've got some logistical issues that we've got to work through. Now, we're planning to work with all the Catawba River stakeholders over the next few months, beginning next month, to work through how we get as many people safely on and down the Catawba during peak season, because we're running into problems. They're getting on at the dam and they don't know where to get off. They're calling 911. They're having to get fished out of the river. So we've got issues like that that we need to work through. We need an outfitter on the river. That's one thing. We need someone who will transport people up and down the river, because when you go to the dam on any given Saturday, 80% of your license plates are from outside of South Carolina. So people are coming there. It is a destination, so we got to figure out how to make it work. So we will start working on that as soon as this season finishes. Not sure if my batteries are... I don't know if you can advance that, Karen. Let me try it now. All right, so talking about events, we've lost 2 major events over the last few months: the NCAA College Basketball Academy and the USA Volleyball A2 Invitational. We lost both of those. Significant economic impact on both. Through our partnership with Rock Hill PRT, we've hosted in July 19 events. That's $8.4 million in direct event spending. So that is driving, sports tourism is driving those occupancy numbers that we talked about at the beginning. All right, so now we're dealing with events moving here from other locations. With North Carolina being shut down, we are seeing more events coming into York County. We've had a major lacrosse event, a major basketball event. This past weekend, we hosted the Mrs. South Carolina and North Carolina pageant at the River Place, right on the state line. Over 400 people that were in attendance at that event. Really nice event. And BMX Nationals is relocating from Nashville to Rock Hill, and that will be later on this year. Now, an issue that we're running into is we have limited use of facilities. When we do events throughout York County, we depend heavily on school districts and we depend heavily on Winthrop University. None of those stakeholders are allowing outside use of their facilities right now. So all of the local school districts in Winthrop, those are not available to us right now. That's how we ended up at the River Place, because that was a good place to put that event, but not a place that we typically put events. So H-Tax and A-Tax collections, just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea on where that's at. We've reached out to Rock Hill, Fort Mill, and York County. Rock Hill, from January 20 to June 20, they were down 12.7% on hospitality tax collections. July of 2019 to June 20th, so an entire year, they were down 2.6%. Then on accommodations tax, from January 20th to June 20th, so the last 6 months, accommodations tax in Rock Hill was down 25%. And then for the whole year, was down 8.8% down. So numbers not as bad as we thought they would be, is the message there. We did get Fort Mill's numbers today. Their accommodations tax collections is down 46% from this time last year. Hospitality tax collections down 1%. So I think those are, you know, on the accommodation side, not great numbers, but on the hospitality tax collection side, I think those are very good numbers. Surprised by that, actually. I want to run through this real quick. I got a few slides. This is our year-end report. Last time I was here, I gave you third quarter. This is the year-end report for all of 2019. Top York County visitor attractions, Carowinds comes in at 45.5% of all visitors go to Carowinds. So you can see why hotels on that exit are not where they need to be. Restaurants on that exit are not where they need to be, not as far off as what we anticipated. They've kind of weathered the storm now, but hopefully we'll get Carowinds back open in the spring. Kingsley, 32.6% of all tourist visitors that come into York County go to Kingsley. Then we've got downtown Clover at 13.5% and Baxter at 12.1%. More than 75% of our visitors reside in 5 states. The majority of them coming from South Carolina, then North Carolina, and then we get a little bit from Georgia, Florida, and Virginia. This is how we target our advertising. This is how we target the markets that we go after to get people to come here. Now, our top 10 visitor origins are regional drive markets. We know that 95% of our visitors drive into the market, which bodes well for us right now, because there are a lot of destinations that are struggling much worse than York County is, and it's predominantly because of sports tourism, and we are a regional drive market. 13.5% of our visitors come from the Greenville-Spartanburg area, 11.3% come from Columbia, 11% come from the Raleigh-Durham area, and then Greensboro at 9.2% and Charleston at 4.8%. So these are all really good numbers. You can see if you're coming from Greenville-Spartanburg, you're predominantly going to Carowinds, Kingsley, and you're going to downtown Clover or downtown York because you're probably going to Carowinds. But what we are working with York right now on figuring out ways to market York to get people to stop in York when they're going to Carowinds. So that's a focus that the city of York is working on, is coming up with unique marketing ideas that we can use to get people to stop in York when they're coming through to go to Carowinds. Columbia, also Carowinds and Kingsley, Baxter is the main markets there. Raleigh-Durham, Carowinds, Kingsley, Baxter, so you can see where the direction is that the people are coming. Charleston, Carowinds, Kingsley, Baxter again. And you also see Charleston is real heavy in December. So there are people from Charleston are coming here for Christmas activities in York County We know that. Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, you can see where those numbers are as well. Now, we have partnered with CRVA, with the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority, to do this with 22 data points, 22 destinations inside of York County. Starting July 1, we did our own contract with Uber Media, which is the company that provides that location data services for Charlotte. We are doing our own study now. We are tracking 50 destinations in York County. So we will know where our visitors are coming from. We know what they do before they get here. We know what they do after they leave here. So it's good information that we can use to market more efficiently. But that started July 1, so when I come back, I should have some good numbers from that. But I do appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Joel?
Billy, I'm curious, how many of the visitors going into Baxter or Kingsley are also Carroll's visitors? Are you able to tell that?
We will be able to tell that. We don't get that data now, but that's part of the data that we do want. That's why we did our own agreement with this provider, because we want to know where they're going before and where they're going after. So that'll tell us. We think that the majority of those people are coming from Carroll Winds, but we don't know that for sure. But we will.
Mr. Roddy?
I think we're going to recover pretty well, considering this pandemic and COVID and all, because I've seen the Rock Hill Sports and Event Center over the last several weeks, the traffic that's coming through there. I'm excited to see what a full year is going to bring, and I think that little 2% at Rock Hill's at the bottom, I think we're going to see that stretch out if we can get a full year without, of course, what we're dealing with now. You mentioned that you're running the hotel program for both the city and yourself. I thought that was part of an agreement that this was all coming under you, that you were going to run it for, the hotels are coming in under your regime, not
Correct.
Still part of Rock Hill.
There is no Rock Hill host hotel program anymore.
Okay, it's all under your.
All of those hotels have either joined our program or they are not a part of either program.
Okay, and send me over the information on how we got this influence to come through and what the price tag for that was.
Okay.
Going forward. Okay.
So,
Ms. Love?
thank you, Billy, for the update. I'm just curious how you track those numbers in Clover, because Clover's really high on the list, and there's not a hotel or anything. How do you come up with a number for that?
Well, that's part of the question that I asked was the same thing. And that's part of what we're doing with York now is we know that people coming from the Greenville-Spartanburg market that are going to Carroll Winds, they're either going through Clover or through York if they're coming the back way. So York's take is they want them to come through York, not Clover. So we know that they're coming one way or another. So the numbers that we're getting are not drive-through. These are people that are actually stopping in those destinations. So they may be stopping to eat, they may be stopping to get gas, they may be stopping for whatever reason.
I think that's my question. How do you know? How do you know that they've stopped? I mean, if I drive through somewhere and I stop and eat somewhere, how does anybody know that I stopped there to eat on my way to?
It is pinging your cell phone at different intervals. So if you got your location services on and you stop in Clover, it's picking you up.
It's called geofencing.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
It
I
picks
mean,
that
it's-
cell phone up.
If you've got your location services on and you stop in a location, somebody's tracking us while we're sitting here right now. Not us, but somebody is.
So I would think that the number for, when you say Clover, are you talking about all of District 2, or are you talking about the town of Clover?
This is just downtown.
Okay, so I would think there would be more people in Lake Wiley being pinged in Lake Wiley than in downtown Clover, but Lake Wiley's not even on the list.
Lake Wiley was not on the original 22 list, but on the new, with the agreement that we're doing now, we are tracking Lake Wiley as one of our destination points.
So you request who you're asking for the information for specific areas.
We have 50 points of interest that we can choose. So Lake Wiley is now one of those locations. And it's basically going from the bridge up to the traffic light, and then both sides of the road. So we're trying to get as much of that traffic, because we want to know where those people, and one reason that we want to know that is when we do fishing tournaments or things like that, we want to know where those people are staying. Because we're thinking that they're going into North Carolina, which doesn't really help us, at least on the accommodations tax side, but it does help us on the hospitality tax side to get them into Lake Wiley. So those are things that we'll know now that we're tracking that location.
So I would ask that you track Field Day Park when that gets open, because
Yes,
if you
that
just do
will
that
be-
one little section, you're missing that, and I think the numbers on that may
That will
be
definitely
interesting.
be one. Ebenezer Park's another one that we will begin tracking. We had a great tour with Pat a couple of weeks ago, and real excited about what that facility is going to be.
Thank you.
Mr. Winkler?
One quick question. I know York recently had an influencer come through, a young lady. Did y'all have a hand in that, or was that something that York
Yes.
was able to do? Okay.
Yes, we did, and
I
we've
saw
got another one coming in the next couple of weeks. I can't remember exactly the area that she's focusing on, but influencers has really works for us because they're very specific to what they do. They're very specific to their location, and they have a very loyal following. So we're getting really curious about what Jamarcus Gaston's going to bring. The engagement he's brought just on social media has been very good so far. But basically, it's a person that's touting everything, all the cool things York County has to offer to the market in Greenville-Spartanburg. And you can't buy that advertising. So the influencers are really a different way that we're going now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Keep York County Beautiful to present their annual report.
Good evening, y'all. While Allison is getting ready, I'm going to do a quick presentation. My name is Mallory Coffey. I'm the Keep South Carolina Beautiful State Leader at Palmetto Pride, our state's anti-litter campaign. And I just want to say thanks for allowing us to have a few moments to kind of brag on Keep York County Beautiful. This affiliate just celebrated its 10th birthday. Wow, 10 years. It went by really fast for them. But during that time, they influenced behavior change in litter, beautification, waste reduction, and recycling. They provided many grant programs throughout the entire county that we use as a model program throughout our entire state. They have community gardens, they have a recycling bin program. They even offer scholarships to high school seniors in the area. What they have done is help to create a cleaner, greener, and more beautiful York County. And some of the individuals who have helped to do this, they're here in the room. So real quick, if you guys could just stand so they would know who you are. Don't be shy, we're really proud of you. These are just like a very small group of them, but we're very proud of what they do for the community. They go out on litter pickups, planning projects, they help with education when it comes to litter, whether it's prevention or enforcement of that. And they just help to go down all the avenues of litter and the environment to help achieve their mission. As I said before, we use Keep York County Beautiful as a model affiliate. I created an affiliate, Keep Bamberg County Beautiful, about 7 years ago. And Allison was one of the first individuals that I ever met. And she's kind of been a role model to me, even throughout this whole process, even as I started as the state leader. This affiliate, they achieve their goals, they spread their mission, and they make impacts where no one else has made impacts. They're creative, they go out, they take chances, and they make things happen. With recent data that I just pulled from Keep America Beautiful, the total value of their volunteer time, I thought it was pretty interesting that I wanted to share. It's worth more than $288,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of jobs. And your volunteers are worth that much money. And that's just within the last 5 years. That's what they're worth. They've volunteered more than 12,000 hours of their time. This affiliate has hosted well over 5,000 events in less than 5 years, and they have collected more than 1 million pounds of litter. And of that litter, they've been able to recycle 40,000 pounds of it. Again, all in less than 5 years. And they've worked to ensure that over 20 million pounds of recyclables were actually recycled. They didn't end up in the landfill. They didn't take up even more space. And they've reached more than 35,000 youth within this county. Again, all in less than 5 years, with the help of volunteers and an absolutely phenomenal staff. To me, this is just an astronomical achievement. And if we didn't have this affiliate, I know that I can only imagine what York County would be like, what it would look like, what it would feel like. In the last 10 years, this affiliate has received almost $100,000 in grant funds just from our organization. And because of their success in litter prevention, in pickup, beautification, waste reduction, and recycling, we can honestly say this has been an investment with a return like no other. Their success proves York County is one of the most beautiful, clean, and green places to live in South Carolina. So I just want to say thank you to the volunteers, to the staff, also to you all for your work and your effort. And I want to end with saying that I'm proud to know this affiliate. I'm proud to work with this affiliate. We're proud to have this affiliate family, and we're proud to know that you support them today, tomorrow, and in the future. And we absolutely love where you live. Thank you.
Since we have 6 feet and I can't breathe over here, I'm gonna set my mask down for a minute. Thank you, Mallory, for that awesome introduction. Good evening, y'all. My name is Marie McFadden, and I am with Keep York County Beautiful, probably guessed that. On behalf of Keep York County Beautiful, we appreciate the opportunity to be here and your time and your ears listening. And we do have a thank you to a few individuals. So York County Council, thank you for all your support. York County Management, York County Public Works, including Eric Reckett, Director, and Ryan Blank, Assistant Director. York County Solid Waste Collection and Recycling Administrative Staff, also known as our good friends. We have our vision statement here, and just to reiterate, it's for a well-educated, empowered community committed to beautifying York County through a diverse range of litter prevention, recycling, and environmental solutions. And so we're here in support of all that hospitality and traffic, so when they get here, they find a place where they want to be. We want to keep it clean. We are now celebrating our 10th anniversary. You got the click? Okay. And we have a total number of volunteer hours. This year is 379. The value to the county is $9,637.97. And we have a list of our items here on the page. Keep South Carolina Beautiful. Let's see, we haven't got to our grants yet. Are you clicking me? There's our 10th anniversary. We have almost a complete full board. We have 3 open seats that we're filling. Okay, grants and awards. You can see on the screen, Keep South Carolina Beautiful, Palmetto Pride, along with the Keep America Beautiful President Circle Recognition Award. Total value to York County this year was $21,000, $637.97, and grants and awards that this group has earned to date is over $142,000. We also have a litter index. This is done every year, and it's a tool that we use to just visually assess the amount of litter that is present inside the communities. So normally a group of volunteers and staff will get together and survey the roads. For safety reasons, this year the volunteers and staff completed the survey in separate vehicles. The scale is 1 to 4, 1 being minimal to no litter and 4 being extremely littered. Every 5 years, we get a fresh set of roads to examine. The overall score for 2019 was 1.57, so well under the 4. Overall score for 2020 with that brand new set of roads was 1.58, and the results are up on the screen. Keep York County Beautiful Board is not only a planning board, but we are a working, hands-on, taking care of business board when we love where we live. York County residents are encouraged at our volunteer at our events with us. We drag all of our friends and neighbors along and put them to work too. Keep York County Beautiful project focus areas are waste reduction, recycling, litter prevention and beautification, and outreach and education. We have a lot of activities. We had the waste reduction and recycling program events such as America Recycles Day for 5th grade adventures, rotational workshops at the new material recovery facility, the MRF, had more than 350 students in attendance. So starting with the students. Earth Day birthday, y'all have probably attended it in the past. This year it was virtual and we reached 22,600 people with online activities and things to find and hunts. Hazardous materials and document shredding and event. Those are always still very popular. An event was environmental education liaison meetings with the children, with the teaching staff. Litter prevention and beautification projects and programs such as the Great American Cleanup. We had a contest for 2020 to engage the community. Year-long volunteer litter programs, so we engage with individuals, groups, churches, businesses, such as Adopt a County Road and Litter Challenge and Adopt Your Spot, it's your business. And so we go out and speak to businesses about adopting their spot. Kycb mini grants, we received grant funding this year to assist other community organizations in funding projects that promote beautification, such as rights of way, medians, building exteriors, parks or other natural areas to improve the York County environment, with preference given to projects benefiting pollinators. And so here is the list of places where we have had projects go in. We have quite a few gardens for beautification and for feeding communities. Additional outreach and education, we had lots of great applications for scholarships. So we gave out 3 $500 college scholarships for York County students. This is the 5th year of this program, and in reading some of them, it was really hard to pick. These are very well-educated young people on the issues, and ideas are just been phenomenal. So it was hard to pick. We got 3. Dr. T, also known as Les Litter, provided presentations reaching 2,000 students in our community. And we had additional social media and other events. Secure Your Load was a big one, and we had other items as well. So there's a campaign, and if you guys are following Keep York County Beautiful on Facebook, Allison and team do a great job putting information out there, helping to educate the residents, helping to drive awareness around the right way to do things, like securing your load is really important. You're hauling a bunch of stuff to the dump and you don't even know that you're losing stuff on the back. So it's an important program. There's a lot of awareness and a lot of views driven by the hard work that she does. Okay, and lastly but not leastly, please do follow us on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter. We have a lot of informational posts, and we do have a lot of fun. So hopefully you'll follow us there and give us your comments. So to kind of wrap things up, there's a beautiful site for you to see, and we would love for businesses, residents, organizations, and schools to support our mission, and we appreciate your time with us this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Any questions, anyone? Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Patrick Hamilton to update us on Pennies for Progress.
Well, good evening again. It's time for another update. Council, I'll go through projects that are under construction, touch on a couple other items. I'm not going to get into every project like normal, but if you have anything specific, we'll be happy to to answer that as well. So let's look at some of the projects under construction. This is Highway 160 West. It's looking north into North Carolina. That's Zoar Road down at the bottom. If you look close, you can see the traffic signal has been installed at Zoar Road. It's not operational yet. It has to flash yellow for probably a week or two before it actually becomes active. But that'll probably be sometime in September when it gets closer to the project and all 5 lanes can be opened up to traffic. It is on track to be complete in September, as was in the original contract. Highway 274 Pole Branch. This is looking down on 274. As you can see, they've got new asphalt down on the left side of the road. The plan is to shift traffic on 274 onto the new bridge in September. They'll then come in and tear down the existing bridge and start building the rest of the widening bridge. Down at the bottom right, that's the landing. That is going to be closed off due to an elevation difference, and for them to be able to tie in the new road, they're going to have to close that entrance and send everybody over to Highway 49 while that work is being done. This is looking down Pole Branch Road. This picture was actually taken about a week or 2 ago. If you can see, there's a cement truck down there. They were starting the soil cement process that day. But that's looking down towards the bridge, towards North Carolina. And then this picture was taken this morning where they've been paving on the south side of the bridge. The north side of the bridge on Pole Branch, they're doing the soil cement now, but they are getting the asphalt down on the south side of the bridge on Pole Branch Road. So that project is progressing along. I-77 Gold Hill Road, as we mentioned before, the SCDOT is managing this project for us. This is a look at the southbound exit ramp on 77, and then here is another picture looking at the bents there. So you can see they are working on widening that bridge to the north there, so that project is continues to move forward. The Barrett Connector Road over in Clover. This is, look at the top of your picture, that's Clover Middle School off of Barrett Road. That's a new connector road that's going to tie in from Barrett over and eventually get over to the US 321. There's 2 sections of this project. This is the first section, and then the second section is right there tying into Highway 321. Hoping to open up that road to traffic hopefully by the end of the month or 1st of September. Anderson Cowan Farm intersection. This was another one that the DOT managed. There were some DOT safety funds, traffic safety funds involved in this project. They managed the project from the get-go. The top right corner is the City of Rock Hill Operations Center. So the new traffic flow is active now. The project is not complete. There's still some paving and other items left to do, but I've been told that it should be substantially complete in September. If you look on the left side, the whole purpose of this project was to get rid of 2 scissor-type intersections. On the left side, you can see some dirt. That's where one intersection was removed. And then on this next picture, you can see the other end of 21. You can see that asphalt's been removed as well. So it gets rid of those 2 scissor intersections, brings them into one central intersection with the traffic signal. Pennies for resurfacing. So as you are aware, there was $50 million on Pennies 4 to go towards resurfacing existing roads. There were 40 roads that were included on the referendum. 38 of the 40 roads have been bid. There's 2 roads remaining. One road is White's Road in Fort Mill, which Fort Mill Middle School is being built, so we didn't want to fix the road and then have a middle school built on it to tear it up again, so that's planning to be bid out this fall and winter and will be done next year. And the other road is a county road that Public Works is going to do in-house for us, and that's on their schedule for probably 1st of 2021. But compared to our budget, those 38 roads that have been bid out are currently $5 million under what we budgeted for them, based on from what we budgeted to what the bid came in, we're about $5 million under currently, and we do expect that number to increase as these projects are completed. There's a lot of contingencies included with these roads. For example, Cherry Road was completed last year, but there's about $400,000 or so left on that contract that we'll be getting back from the DOT. So there's that $5 million we expect to go up to $6 or $7 million when it's all said and done. And as I mentioned, all the roads will be complete in 2021.
Patrick, let me
Yes,
stop you. When a pennies program doesn't go over budget, it's actually under budget, what happens? I don't think I've ever heard that and don't know how to, what
Certainly.
happens
So,
to that money? Is that money, how do you spend it?
The Pennies resurfacing was project number 2 on the Pennies 4 referendum list. So it's number 2 priority. So any money left on that project will just trickle down to any other projects that need funding. So ultimately, if Pennies 4 is completely finished and there's money left over, it can then roll over into Pennies 5 if there is a Pennies 5.
So you can't, because the roads have to be named, you could not spend that 5 million to repave additional roads?
We cannot. The roads, it has to be included on the referendum.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, don't we have a project at the bottom of that list that's kind of contingent on funding?
It is.
That will,
Neely Road.
Yes.
yeah. So we can call it a overage, a surplus now, but I think we have projects that always get threatened at the end.
Certainly.
That could use funding.
We're not ready to pull the trigger on Neely Road yet, just because we're not even halfway through the collection period. So we want to evaluate that and see as some of these larger projects, as we get bid prices on those, because there's going to be projects that go over the referendum budget. There's going to be projects that come in under the referendum budget. That's just, we have to wait a few more years till we can get more of those projects bid out to kind of see, okay, do we have enough money to go ahead and start design on Neely Road?
Now, we will be able to take any surplus money from the resurfacing program and go over to the project phase, correct?
Yes, any money remaining from the resurfacing list can go to any other Pennies 4 project.
Gotcha.
So it'll just trickle down to whatever project needs it next.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir. While we're talking about funding and revenue, let's take a look and see what kind of impact COVID-19's had on our revenues this year. So obviously, as you would expect, we have seen a little bit of a decrease in our revenue. The February, March, April revenue check was only down 4% compared to that same time period from 2019. I was very surprised it was that little of a decrease, only being about $300,000 or $400,000 less than what that same period was from last year. So I was expecting it to be more than that, so I was pleasantly surprised when we got that check in and see it only drop 4%. So I think that's a good sign for the area. Coming in prior to COVID-19, we'd been a little bit ahead of our revenue projections up to this point. So now that we've kind of taken a couple steps back, we are still moving forward on all of our projects. We're still going to monitor it as our checks continue to come in, and if it continues to decrease, then we're going to have to really take a closer look at things. But right now, a little bit of a step back from February, March, and April. It'll be interesting to see how May, June, and July come in now that things are kind of starting to open back up and everything. We'll get that check probably in October. But as of right now, we are still moving forward on all active projects on Pennies 4. However, we're still going to closely monitor the revenue and see how that impacts moving forward. But right now, it's full steam ahead. That was just a quick run through, and I'll be happy to answer any projects I didn't touch on the presentation.
Mr. Roddy?
Now, I know we have a lot of Pennies projects going on. How does this affect some of our C-Fund projects? Because I know there's only a few road pavers and people in this business, so does that kind of
Certainly.
keep some of those projects down the road?
The C funds is based solely on gas tax.
I'm talking about, the ones that we've approved, does this kind of slow those projects down? Because obviously Pennies is a bigger draw for the contractors who are paving roads and doing this kind of work. So my question is, will we see any kind of lag because those road pavers and contractors went after this pot of money and slow to come in on some of the other?
Possibly. One thing we did this past spring was we bid county C funds and county Pennies roads together in one bid.
Okay.
Obviously, the DOT, we send each of them separate to DOT, but in an effort to combat that from a county perspective, we bid both our projects together for Pennies and C funds, and we actually got a pretty good bid in, and that project's under construction now.
So we basically weren't pitching C-Fund
We
projects.
weren't fighting against each
Right,
other.
Right,
Correct.
gotcha.
Now, the
That makes
DOT
sense.
still has their bids, and they bid our Pennies state roads for us, so that there's a lot of resurfacing out there now. But there's really no more Pennies resurfacing bids going to be moving forward because we've already bid out all but 2 roads left. So from moving forward, I don't see it being an issue.
Mr. Winkler?
Not a current Pennies question, but you answered it partially in an email earlier today. It was one of our first Pennies projects.
Certainly.
Alexander Love Bypass. Did I misunderstand something somewhere, or has the state changed what they're doing on that? Because I was told at one point we were doing full depth reclamation and taking care of that, and now they're patching and then surfacing again, which they've done for 10 years now, and it doesn't seem to work very well.
Right, so the feedback I got from them was their plan all along was to do this patching and leveling and overlay. So I'm not sure if maybe my wires got crossed, giving information to you, or somehow that information got misconstrued, but their plan all along has been to do basically a 16-inch patch, and then do a leveling course, then come back with a 2-inch overlay on top of that. So from their perspective, it's been the same since the spring, but there may have been some miscommunication in there.
So we're doing more of the same that hasn't worked for the last 5 years, so. Yep,
They are.
DOT is.
Dr. Blackwell?
Speaking of that, my understanding from years ago, there was some issues with the contractor and the subsurface and all that. Did any warranty play into this, or is they got all their money and it's
That was
new expenses?
I'm trying to remember because I was not involved at the time, but from my understanding was that was a DOT managed project, and there was issues with the road. They teamed up with the contractor, came back in and made repairs after the project was done, and then from that point on, then it was maintenance of the DOT. So the contractor did come back in and do some repairs initially after the project was initially complete.
Yeah.
But ultimately down the road, it's a state road, and it's their maintenance and ownership of it.
I'm sorry, I do have one more. 2-3 years ago, it all blurs together after a while. The state repaved Spring Lake Road. It was not a pennies or it was just a state did it. I live on that road.
Sure.
And about 8 months later, the shoulder was crumbling. And I sent in an email to engineering here at the county and said, you know, I hoped somebody could get something done while it was under warranty. And I believe, it wasn't you, but I believe I was told by engineering that the state does not require warranty agreements on those roads when they do that.
I believe that's correct.
Is that something that's still the same as far as you know? If
As far as
so,
I know.
everyone watching, please reach out to your senators and representatives and see if we can't change that, because it's ridiculous to spend that much money on a road and not require a warranty contract, in my opinion. So. All right, thank you.
I'm with you.
Patrick, I looked through the report that you sent. I believe it's like 48, 50 pages. Will that be made available to the public? Is there a link?
It's on
that
our
they can
web,
look
it'll
at?
be on our website tomorrow.
Okay.
I post the presentation and the financial report on our Penny's website each morning after I give the update.
Great. When I looked through it, with the exception of, I believe it was the Cowan Farm project, it looked as if everything was on budget and we're gonna get to all of our projects. I know that was the concern on Penny's 4. Folks wanted to make sure that all the projects got
Right,
reached.
on Penny's 4, if you're looking, there's a couple of the intersection projects we've already had to bump up a little bit, but then there's other projects like Bate Harvey Road, it's already been bid out, and it's $400,000 or $500,000 under what the referendum was. So some will be over, some will be under. The big ones like Sail River and US 21, and those are the $30 and $40 million projects. Those are the ones we really are keeping our eye on. The intersection, if it's a $2 million intersection, it goes over by $300,000. In the scheme of things, that's not that big of a deal. Obviously, over budget's bad, but from a percentage standpoint, we want to focus on, like our resurfacing, we're $6 or $7 million to the good. That'll cover hopefully any overage on any of the other smaller intersection projects. So as of now, yes, every project we're moving forward, and we expect to build all projects except for Neely Road. That one's still on hold at this time, but all other projects are expected to be built with Penny's 4,
Including 21?
including 21.
One last question. Are you seeing anything, I'm hearing from builders, and obviously this isn't a translation, but I'm just wondering, are you seeing any trends that the construction costs are increasing because of any issues or delays caused by COVID, or are you not
We will
able
probably
to?
find out this fall. We have 2 or 3 projects we're hoping to bid out by the end of the year, and we should get a pretty good indication then of what the prices are.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Patrick, you said that you would have the May, June, July numbers back sometime in
I
October.
believe October is when we expect to get that.
Would
check.
you, and I know we sit as the CTC, but would you come back in October and just give us a very quick update on what those numbers are? I'm curious for the Transportation Committee to actually track those numbers and have a better idea.
Certainly. Now, from the Transportation Committee, that's C funds, which is just gas taxes.
I realize it's different, but,
Right.
but that's probably the best way to
Sure.
just give us that information.
But just on the C funds, there has been a noticeable decrease in C funds. Obviously, that's tied to the gas tax. People are at home for 2 months and nobody's driving. there's no gas being bought. At least with our program, through the 1% sales tax, people are still going to Walmart, people were buying toilet paper. I mean, people were still buying stuff, so that didn't hurt us as bad as it would from a gas tax perspective.
C Fund's down, what, 38?
That's
What's
what I,
that?
38%? Is what I've heard.
Down?
Down.
Oh, yes, yeah, probably at least.
yeah, nearing 40%.
One last thing, and I do want to, it has nothing to do with pennies, but I want to congratulate you and your department for the hard work you put in on the SIB. Thank you for all you all did in allowing us to get the funding we did for exits 85 and, oh, my mind just went blank, 82.
82.
The Rocky
Certainly, no,
Celanese.
we were very pleased with to get that award. There's still a chance to get Exit 90 funding later this fall. They're gonna possibly regroup again and have a phase 2 of selection, so we are crossing our fingers that we can possibly still get some more funding from it.
Thank you, sir. You gonna make a, so I believe Mr. Roddy is going to ask us to suspend the rules and move something on the agenda.
Well, actually, I think the group got placed at the end of the council meeting versus in the appearance section is the group Mom Demands Action. And they're
Okay.
here with a presentation. I think Alex is going to start off
If
with.
no one has any objection, we're gonna move them to that spot. All right, who, I don't know who's the featured speaker, but come on up.
Is that Ms. Wilson?
That's Alex and Ms. Wilson.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Hi, I'm LaQuata. I'm Carly. This is my daughter.
So thank you so much for having us tonight. My team and I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to you all. My name is Alex Patterson. I'm the co-lead with Suzanne Mikowski for the North Central SC Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. We encompass all of Chester, York, and Lancaster counties. I'll tell you all a little bit about Moms Demand Action and then a little bit about myself and our expanding team. We are a grassroots movement of Americans fighting for public safety measures that can protect people from gun violence. We work in our communities with business leaders to encourage a culture of responsible gun ownership. We know that gun violence is preventable, and we're committed to doing whatever it takes to make our families safe. We promote the passage of sensible gun laws and work to close the loopholes that jeopardize the safety of our families. As we all know, or should know, the effect of gun violence doesn't stop when the bullet stops. Families go into bankruptcy from hospital bills, job loss, the everyday trauma that victims experience, and the very often overwhelming feeling of frustration when local elected officials do not change the laws to protect other families. We were founded by Shannon Watts, a mother of 5. The day after the Sandy Hook tragedy, Shannon started a Facebook group with the message that all Americans can and should do more to reduce gun violence. The online conversation turned into a movement of moms, dads, gun owners, families, concerned citizens, and survivors working together with our partners in the gun violence prevention movement to end this uniquely American crisis. Moms Demand Action has established many chapters in every state of the country and Washington, D.C., along with Mayors Against Illegal Guns, Wear Orange, Students Demand Action, and Everytown Survivor Network. It is part of Everytown for Gun Safety, the largest gun violence prevention organization in the country, with nearly 6 million supporters and more than 350,000 individual donors. I have been a local group co-lead since February of 2019. I became a lead after an incident in which I had to army crawl while holding my 3-month-old baby to get to safety and avoid being shot as bullets flew past my house in the middle of the night. As I lay awake that night, unable to sleep from the adrenaline and anger, I realized that my community, my neighbors, and my family needed more people to step up and take action to put a stop to gun violence here locally. After being onboarded to our team, we filled necessary roles, formed more community partners, passed out over 150 gun locks, distributed Be Smart and Moms Demand Action literature to stores, barbershops, salons, and businesses, and churches. We are currently helping our gun sense candidates get into the Senate and House seats. Our team is diverse in thought, race, ability, and religion, but we have one goal collectively: to end gun violence across the board. During this last Wear Orange event to honor our survivors and those taken by gun violence, I had the absolute honor to meet LaQuada Wilson and hear her incredible survivor story. Her survival was a miracle, but her persistence and her determination are all her own. She is one of the most passionate and fierce women I know, and I'm thrilled to be working with her closely. As I stated before, gun violence doesn't stop when the bullets stop. She, as so many other survivors, needs the support of the local community and local government. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Hi, and thank you for having me. I'm LaQuada. This is my daughter, Carly. I was a victim of a mass shooting February 12th of 2019. Due to that, it left me as an amputee, blind in the right eye, a lot of different medical issues that I'm still having to deal with. So daily, I'm trying to find a new normal, a new way to adjust to life and to adjust to the new things that's thrown at me. But it's like once I was released from the hospital, I was lost. I was just out there by myself. I didn't have any help, any resources. I worked long hours before I got shot to take care of my kids. Once I got shot, of course, I couldn't work. I was then disabled. Medical bills piled up, which are now on my credit, so I can't really do anything with housing. It took, over 17 months for me to get a disability approved, in which time I couldn't receive unemployment because I applied for disability, which left me financially stuck with how to take care of my 11-year-old and my 19-year-old who has now gone off to college. It's just rough every day for a survivor, physically, for me physically and mentally. I can't go out and enjoy the things that I used to in York County because of the mental trauma, some of the physical traumas that I have that limit me from things that I can and can't do. It's just, life was just not the same anymore. And it was all changed because of a guy that did not supposed to have access to weapons, had access to weapons, and he got out, and I was the 6th victim. It was 5 other victims before me. I was the last victim. I stayed in the hospital at CMC Medical for about 2.5 months because he shot us with shotguns, and I got shot 4 times, the face too as well. So I had to stay there a lengthy time. I had to relearn how to walk, relearn how to do a lot of things that came to me every day as normal was now not so normal. And that's with a lot of things that I have to do on a daily basis now. My normal is not so normal now. And so I came today because I didn't want another victim to, or a survivor to come and be in a position where I am, where there's no resources, there's nobody to turn to, there's no help. You just feel lost and you just feel like you're out here, you know? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 3 lawyers on the board, correct? Am I correct? Okay. If I was to come to one of you guys and ask for you guys to help me navigate through this system because I'm so lost, pro bono, because I'm financially stuck. I have to take care of this new normal that I got. Would you guys be willing to help? And I say that because I know it's gonna be more than me that comes. It's gonna be another victim. It's gonna be another survivor, because in my case, it was one that wasn't so lucky and she didn't get to survive. So I'm her voice, and I'm also other survivors' voice. And so that's a little bit of my story. And I thank you guys for letting me come and speak here today.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Under public forum, Brian Butts. Brian, just a reminder, name, address, and you have 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'm Brian Butts, address 750 Eden Terrace. I'm with Keystone Substance Abuse Services here in Rock Hill. When COVID first started, like many other organizations, we closed our doors but not our services. We canceled group therapy, moved everyone into individual telehealth services, and we reduced the number of our beds from 14 to 9 so that everybody could have their own space. Even when we reopened our outpatient facility, we couldn't open up fully due to social distancing requirements. So this created a barrier to treatment, leaving many patients without the opportunity to get in group. However, the need for services have not diminished. In fact, suicides and drug overdoses have increased since COVID. Just in South Carolina, opioid overdoses are already 39% higher in 2020, as 3,332 people. Then compared to 2019, 1,673. In York County, we've seen 152 suspected overdoses. Not all of those are fatal. But in the last week of July, York County had the highest number of suspected overdoses at 21. 3 of those were fatal. We need to expand our services, however, but because of COVID, we cannot. Keystone is seeing a deficit of $624,000 right now, and that's due to insurance and Medicaid not reimbursing for telehealth services as a group. They only do individual. It's not all gloom and doom. Truth is, telehealth does work for some people, but not everybody. Most people benefit from group setting, the counselor connection to peer-to-peer support to help them be successful. Therefore, Keystone would like to request $150,000 to help offset some of our deficit, but it also will allow us to open our doors for the weekend. If I can hold groups on the weekend, I can help more people. And I hope I have the opportunity to come back and talk about that in greater detail. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Billy Hagner.
Yes, I'm Billy Hagner, 1901 Voyager Road, York. I just want to make a few comments concerning the budget amendment that y'all will be talking about tonight. There's a small group of us that are concerned about the budget and been following it for quite a while. There's four of us here tonight, Swain and Frank and David. But anyway, back in 2018, we supported y'all's, I guess, a budget where we were going to reduce the debt by 2024. It sounded like a good thing to us. It was going to save us money in interest, and then going forward, we were planning on not having any further debt. So looking at the way it looks to me, the way I read y'all's amendment tonight, it looks like that y'all are going to put some money, transfer some money into the debt reserve fund, and at this time, you're going to reduce the millage. Now that was one of our concerns back in 2018. In order to reduce the debt, you're going to have to raise our millage by either 2, maybe 3 mills. But and we were a little bit skeptical of whether, once you put on millage, do you ever take it off? And at that time, y'all said you would. And just looking at this amendment, it looks like y'all are doing what you said you were going to do. So we'd like to commend you for that in advance. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Stephen and Jenny Trippy. We'll give them a second in case they're.
No, he was one of the applicants
To be sworn, oh, okay, all right, gotcha. Under consent agenda, we are removing consent item 33 and moving it to new business number 5, and we are removing consent item 35 and moving it to new business number 6. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to remove from the consent agenda? If not, can we have a motion on consent agenda?
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none. We are good with the consent agenda. Public hearing. Council to hold a public hearing and consider first reading of an ordinance to adopt the Lake Wylie Small Area Plan as an addition to York Forward, the 2035 York County Comprehensive Plan. pursuant to the Code of Laws of South Carolina, Title VI, Chapter 29, entitled South Carolina Local Government Comprehensive Planning Enabling Act of 1994, to hold a public hearing and to provide for other matters related thereto. Is there anyone here who would like to speak against? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor? Motion to close.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, motion passes. Motion now to the main.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, motion passes. Old business. Council to consider second reading of an ordinance to amend the York County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 155, zoning code, to add a definition for warehousing, wholesale, and distribution establishments, to provide for such establishments as accessory uses to a manufacturing facility, to amend the table of permitted and special exception uses, to establish supplemental use conditions for warehousing, wholesaling, and distribution establishments of a certain size, to require a special exception for such establishments within 2 linear miles of I-77, south of the Catawba River, to invoke the pending ordinance doctrine and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
So at first reading, we talked about making this simply for that I-77 corridor, and I feel like this is probably something that other council members would also want to make a special exception. I know for my district, I would certainly like to have this use be a special exception going forward. It doesn't really limit anything. It just puts us in the driver's seat when something like this comes up. So for the same reasons that we're limiting it on the I-77 corridor, I think it's probably a good idea to have this as a county-wide ordinance.
Are you making a motion, or are you just stating?
Well, I thought maybe somebody
wish?
else would speak up, but
right.
but if I could amend that motion, I will.
You can certainly make that motion, so
Okay.
state your amendment.
Okay, so I would like to amend that motion to revert back to what was originally proposed by county staff, and that would be to make this ordinance countywide.
Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Mr. Roddy seconds it. I'm going to ask a point of clarification to Mr. Kendry. Mr. Kendry, since the pending ordinance doctrine has been enacted at first reading, can this amendment be actually made at this time?
Yes, it can. It will be making it tailored to the original title that had the pending ordinance doctrine as part of it as well.
With that out of the way, Mr. Roddy?
All right, my question is, I'd like to see on a map which part of District 4 that the original ordinance covers, what part of District 4 would be covered under this. So could someone get me a map within the next, before we have third reading, so that I know exactly which areas, because some areas of District 4 that may have the proper zoning already, and if we're gonna do a special exception, would those individuals have to come before the planning commission to get a special exception on a piece of property that's already zoned, that a warehouse or any type of distribution can already go on? Are we creating an additional hurdle for someone to get over if the property is already within a certain area that allows it? So I'd like to know which part of my district would be included, not taking into account what Allison is proposing, but on the original ordinance that we have, that we approved at the last meeting. Granted that if Allison's goes through, my district will be covered regardless. But if I see a part of my district that I think that shouldn't have to go through the extra hoops and bounds that may already be covered, I'm asking staff also, would we not be creating an additional hurdle for someone to use that property that's basically already zoned to do these type activities?
So we're going to get Mr. Roddy a map before third reading. That's easy to do. We are discussing the amendment. Mr. Blackwell, you want to chime in?
How did you know I wanted to come in?
Sneaking suspicion.
The way this originally was worded, I had no issue with it for, the I-77 corridor because of the unique demands that are in that area. The only problem I had was the pending ordinance doctrine, which y'all all know how I feel about that. That's a procedural process that for the public, once it's a pending ordinance, it's law at first reading. It's done. And you can take it back, but that hardly ever happens. So there's no public vetting at all. It's already done before the public hearing. And so it's officially a law at first reading. And I've never been for that. I believe in democracy and the proper vetting of any ordinance. That's why we have 3 readings. And this kind of circumvents that process. With the amended motion, I'm not sure of the repercussion this has for the whole county. So I'm kind of caught off guard a little bit. So I'm not going to support it because of the pending ordinance doctrine. But if that wasn't there, I would not support the amendment because I don't know the repercussions it's going to have on the whole county. I'd want to study that more.
Ms. Cox?
I guess I understand Ms. Love's purpose in the amendment, and I think that it seems to me that in her area, a way to accomplish that would potentially be to add this protection within the overlay that exists and to include it that way. The reason why we had the ordinance, what I am afraid of is I know that the city of Rock Hill is on board with limiting warehouse and distribution on the I-77 corridor. We have the problem that I'm having in my district, and the reason for the ordinance to begin with was to address a situation where there was too much that was happening in an area. Certainly not opposed to it at all. We need it. We need to have it. We need to make sure that we have it when it's connected to, especially manufacturing jobs. So while I certainly understand and am certainly willing to work through those members of the council who want to have that included, the whole reason we changed the ordinance last time was to accommodate folks like Mr. Winkler, who in his district doesn't have that problem yet. There aren't having too many of these warehouse and distribution sites already, and it simply, like Ms. Love said, it doesn't stop it. It just gives another layer of protection to make sure that the infrastructure is in place, to make sure that it's not next door to a neighborhood that was just approved. And so I guess I'm a little bit concerned that we don't address the big problem in I-77 corridor, which is having a major issue right now. We already have a significant amount of the warehouse and distribution that's been approved, but they haven't even got the trucks there yet, and we still don't have the infrastructure in place on Springdale. So I guess I'm going to listen to the other 2 council members who are here, but I hope that this council will stick to what we've talked about for, I think at the last meeting, we discussed it being almost 2 years that we've been working towards a resolution on this. Staff has spent a lot of time getting us to this point, and I hope that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater if there are council members who are concerned and don't want it in their district. I'm asking you to, as a council, please consider that. Please consider the fact that we've been working on this for as long as we have, and that we do have a finite problem right here on the corridor that if we don't address, it's going to be a problem.
Mr. Winkler.
Thank you. I share Dr. Blackwell's concerns with pending ordinance doctrine, and but this, as we're voting on second reading tonight, that special exception only affects Councilmember Cox's district and that I-77 corridor. Basically, I mean, there might be a couple of parcels in Bumps area maybe, but I don't think so. I think it's all just Councilmember Cox. But
you heard the amendment, right?
Yes. Yeah. I do not support the amendment.
Okay.
I support it. I was just saying that, as it was presented, staff originally had this countywide, and I spoke out against it at the last council meeting and would not support it countywide because it does, in my opinion, put an extra hurdle in for businesses that are looking to come and do distribution or that type thing. And in District 3, you know, we are looking for the jobs and the tax base. Those distribution jobs are welcome to come on over here and set up, and I don't want an extra hurdle in front of those businesses if they're looking to do that here. I understand Christie's situation. I understand her district is different than mine. You know, each one of our districts are different. That's why I did not support this last time countywide, and I will not support the amendment tonight countywide. I will support, if that goes down, if it fails, then I'll support what I supported last meeting, which is just in Councilmember Cox's district for that special exception.
Mr. Hamilton.
I think Robert stated it about as well as it can be stated. I have some general concerns about going too far with creating sort of a patchwork quilt of different rules applying to different parts of the county. But this is one where it just would not make sense to apply this to the entire county. As Robert stated, there's parts of this county that would love to have this sort of development, and I agree, I think it would be a mistake to create any more or additional restrictions to development if it's just not necessary. So I wouldn't support an amendment.
As to the amendment, all those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Nope. The amendment fails. Now we are on the original motion, which is purely for I-77 South. Would anyone like to speak on that?
I have one final comment.
Mr. Roddy.
I'll support it at second reading, but I may be reluctant once I see the map and the areas that it affect in District 4 at third reading. So once I get that map, I'll make my final determination.
Anyone else? Dr. Black.
I just want to reiterate, I think this is necessary for the I-77 corridor, I believe, in its need, being repetitive here. But here again, with the pending ordinance doctrine verbiage in there, I can't support it. I cannot support a process that circumvents the proper procedures. So because of the pending ordinance doctrine, not because of what it is, I have to vote no.
Anyone else?
I just want to remind council that when we approved the small area plan that we've spent a year and a half on, when we approved that small area plan, it was specifically added that the pending ordinance be used to effectuate the purposes of that plan. And that was a unanimous approval from council, and it was after a year and a half of work, and we've had a public hearing and there's been no opposition. So I would ask for council to support this, and let's move forward and finish something we started, and if we need to come back and revisit it in other areas, we need to do that too.
Well, let me just make
Dr.
one
Blackwell.
final comment. I've been consistent about pending ordinance. I mean, it may have been snuck in there under that plan when we first went over it, but if it's before us and it's got pending ordinance, I'm not going to support circumventing the process.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion passes. New business. Council to consider first reading by title only of an ordinance to amend an ordinance entitled to establish operating and capital budgets for the operation of the county government of York County for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2020, to increase tax revenues levied for the county due to updated value of a mill, and to increase building and code and stamp sold revenue due to updated projections, to add funds for salary adjustments in training and travel, to change appropriation of unassigned general fund balance, to increase general fund transfer to debt service fund, to eliminate the annual 2 mil transfer to debt reserve fund, and to provide for other fiscal matters relating to county government.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Dr. Blackwell.
Kevin, can you comment about all the concerns expressed?
Concerns? In a nutshell, Mr. Hagner touched on a lot of this stuff regarding paying the debt off. We are going to transfer some of our surplus to have the funds necessary set aside to pay off the general obligation debt when it becomes possible in 2024. That negates the need for the 2 mills we levied back, I think, in 2018. Regarding the updated revenue projections, we had a significant increase in the tax revenue coming in June. We've had time to research and study that, and those were payments that normally would come in March that came in June due to the timing of those when those bills went out. So the tax revenue did come in a lot stronger than we thought when we passed through reading the budget. That's the biggest driver of the increase in the revenues. Deed stamps and the building and codes revenue has not fallen off as much as we had originally thought during the budget as well, so those projections are going up slightly. As I said throughout the budget process, if we're able to do a budget amendment, the priorities of management would be to put modest raises in place that are merit-based, as they have been since I got here, as well as some money for training in the budget as well. So this should not, and hopefully does not come to surprise anybody on County Council. This is good news. Again, we prepared the budget worst-case scenario, prepared for the worst, hoping for the best, and the information we got based off the month of June was a pleasant surprise.
Mr. Roddy.
I just want to fall back and thank Billy for those kind words. It's not too often we get someone who stands before us and thank us and appreciate what we do. We get a lot of emails saying how bad we are, but we very seldom get someone stand up in front of us and thank us and appreciate what we're doing. So I just want to tell Billy thank you for those words earlier.
Anyone else? Tonight, we have the opportunity to live that, the saying of a promise made is a promise kept, and we can actually do that by lowering the mill tonight. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, motion passes. Council to authorize a request from the York County Fire Advisory Committee and the York County Fire Chiefs Association to approve a change from a previously approved pay-per-call program to an annual stipend program.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
About
Dr.
time.
Blackwell.
Just procedural again. I know that you always heard my concerns about committees not being legislative bodies. And Mr. Johnson pointed out we want to go through committees for processes. In this case, this did not come through the Public Safety Committee. I'm not whining about it. I'm just pointing out we got to try to be more consistent with these policies.
I'd hate to send it back, but
No,
certainly if your committee
no.
would like to hear it.
No, I think the cat's out of the bag, so we're good.
Anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, motion passes. Council to approve agreement with Kimley Horn in the amount of $5,000 to provide a feasibility study to paint Football City, USA on Norfolk Southern Railroad Bridge in Rock Hill.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Roddy.
I'd like to kind of bring everyone kind of up to speed as to how we got to this point. To those sports fans who may not be as well versed in what Football City USA is. Several years ago, probably around 2012, as early as the beginning part of 2013, one of the first articles appeared in the, I think the Washington Post or one of those New York Times, one of those big publications about Rock Hill, South Carolina, and the plethora of talent that has come out of Rock Hill in York County that was making its way through the NFL. That was 7, almost 8 years ago, and certainly that trend has continued over the years, adding up to over 25, as many as 33 players from the Rock Hill, York County area has played in the NFL or become a professional football player. And some of the most notable names that's still playing now is Stephon Gilmore, Jadavian Clowney, Jonathan Joseph, Cordell Patterson. Just recently, Stephon Gilmore was rated the #1 defensive back in the NFL. He has all kind of high Madden ratings. He's been to the Pro Bowl. He's won Super Bowls. And he's not the only one in Rock Hill that has Super Bowl title to his name. And we certainly see Rock Hill continuing along this trend of producing some of our most world-class, world-famous athletes. And this is not just a tagline for those who've made it to the NFL. This goes all the way down to our high school level, the many state championships that's been won in Rock Hill and York County, all the way down to the Pee Wee football leagues. And Football City USA, as I described it several years ago when I spoke before the Rock Hill City Council, it includes the trainers, the band members, the teachers, the counselors. It incorporates everybody. So when we say Football City USA, it's not just the players on the field, it's the parents, it's the band, it's the trainers, everyone that pours their time and effort into the many different leagues at all ages and all levels. This is not just speaking of the people that are fortunate enough to go on and play college football or go on to the NFL, but the football culture here in York County has been around for a long time, and we don't see that letting up. And the whole tagline of Football City USA is just like if you go to New Orleans, they call it the Big Easy. You go to New York, it's the Big Apple. You go to Las Vegas, it's the Sin City. This is just another tagline that people can put Rock Hill, associate Rock Hill with another great thing that we do here. Obviously, we have doctors, lawyers, preachers, teachers, and every other profession, but this is something that I think we've missed out on for a long time here in our area. But if you just Google Football City USA, Rock Hill, South Carolina comes up, and it tells you all about the different athletes. And I think it's another marketing tool that Billy Dunlap mentioned earlier that we could really capitalize on. It's been said for at least going back to 2012, 2013, but it's nowhere up in the county, it's nowhere up in the city. So I think we've been missing out on a lot of marketing capabilities with not having this up in the city. And this will be another destination that once people visit Rock Hill, they're gonna go by and look at this thing, they're gonna take pictures of it, and it's just another way to keep our name in front of visitors who may be looking to come to Rock Hill or another monument that they can stop by and visit once they're here. And the study is basically and I'll get David to kind of recap this, but the study is basically to kind of look at the timeline, the cost, what it looks like, because Norfolk Southern has some real in-depth questions and specs that we have to meet. And so I'll let David kind of explain how we got to the route of having to use a consultant to pull this project together.
Yes, sir. As Mr. Roddy alluded to, it's the process for what seems to be a very simple project of painting something on a railroad overpass is incredibly complex, primarily due to the
How's it? You don't have a picture? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Primarily due to the requirements of the railroad and complicated by the requirements of the SCDOT. Work has to be done at night. Traffic control has to be in place. Employees of the railroad have to be present. A number of things like that. They sent us what's literally a book when it comes to specifications. So we wanted somebody to go through and make some good estimates on exactly how much this may cost and the process, the timing and everything that would have to be done. So the initial $5,000 would be to Kimley Horn, who has some experience with dealing with the railroad, dealing with DOT on, maybe not on exactly this kind of project, but a project like this. So that's why the $5,000 preliminary study is necessary.
And this will be basically some of the work that would have to be done if we do move forward with the project anyway, correct?
Yeah, I think certainly there'd be some things we'd benefit by having done already, but it's primarily for us to explore if we want to pursue the project.
Mr. Roddy, this railroad trestle, just so I understand, is in the city limits of Rock Hill, correct?
Yes.
Did the city of Rock Hill ask us to do this?
No. I've been lobbying with the city.
Have we gotten any permission? I know your thing about with back and forth them, but I'm asking, did they ask us, or have we asked them if they want us to paint Football City?
They've indicated that they'd be willing to split the cost of the project. So this is not going to just be a York County funded project. It's going to be a collaborative project that we come together on the financial part. We've gotten clearance from the railroad, which was definitely the hurdle number one. So now is to come up with a cost, timeline, renditions of what it would look like, but most importantly, to nail down a cost before we just come in and ask council to stroke a check to do it.
50-50, right?
That's the goal.
Mr. Husband, do we have in writing from the city of Rock Hill approved by their council that they're going to split this cost with us?
They have not given us a formal approval. We have had discussions with the city manager and did indicate a willingness to pursue that, and also asked us to project manage this project. So I think once we would have a number in mind would be the time, once we have a good estimate, would approach them to get something more formal.
I have a question.
Ms. Love?
So if we already have permission from Norfolk Southern, that seems like, I mean, it just seems like $5,000 is a lot of money to determine the rest of that. It seems like that would have been the harder part, and, I mean, I think it's a great idea, I'm all for it. I just am wondering why that is so expensive for a feasibility study if we've already gotten the permission and they're not doing that legwork for us.
Well, if I could, Mr. Roddy, I don't think they've actually given us permission. They have given us the opportunity and the specifications, and we've had discussions with them. They haven't ruled out this as a project, but they certainly need submittals and all that sort of thing put together by an engineer that can demonstrate that we can meet all of the specifications that they require. So that's why.
So is this the engineer work and the design and everything?
Well, it's not actually the design of it, it's to determine the level of engineering that would be required. If this gets approved, there would be a design element to that and then a construction element. But you would have, prior to initiating the project, a good estimate on how much you're gonna expect to pay for both of those elements.
So the person that's going to do that couldn't tell you, like if they're going to make a sale to the county and the city of Rock Hill, can they not, in other words, can we not get a bid from the person that's going to do it and skip the $5,000?
Because we don't know who's gonna do it, we don't know how much it's gonna cost.
But we would find somebody
I don't think that's procurement wise we could do that. I think, they'd have to have specifications, know what we want, where. We haven't even decided on the exact overpass yet that we're gonna, that's part of the most advantageous placement of the sign and what could be, I guess, most easily constructed, which overpass would be the best spot. So it's just an overall feasibility study.
And I like to say 5,000 is not that much of that's not a big price tag for the work that the railroad is gonna require to have before they ultimately give that final approval.
Dr. Black?
I had the same question Ms. Love had. That kind of flew all over me when I first read it over the weekend. But having these talks earlier with Bump and seeing the realities of Norfolk and their requirements and everything involved with the process, grudgingly I accept it, but that's just one aspect of government bureaucracy that I guess we can't avoid. But I do want to commend Mr. Roddy for this suggestion. Back when I was on the State Board of Education, either 2009 or 2010, with my fellow 16 other members from throughout the state, I think it was when Clowney and South Point won, and I think Northwestern won. It was like, I believe, 2 high schools in Rock Hill won the state championship that year. And a great bunch of people I work with, but I can point out one person from Gaffney that looked at me and made it clear that they would not accept Rock Hill being called Football City USA. So, and the ability to nurture, let's all get along, I kind of quickly dropped that resolution.
Anyone? Mr. Winkler?
I've struggled with this since I first saw it on the agenda, which was the first time I heard anything about it. In the grand scheme of things, $5,000 is not a lot of money, but it's still $5,000 of taxpayers' money. I would feel a little better about it if we had something in writing already from the city of Rock Hill saying, yes, we'll split everything down the middle if that happens. This is Football City USA, not Football County USA. It looks like, Billy was talking earlier about the CVB and what's going on with that. My way of thinking, this might be something better for the CVB and the city of Rock Hill to pay for this feasibility study or whatever we want to call it to get that done. I am not going to be able to support it this evening, just knowing that It's $5,000 that we're gonna put into it with nothing other than a word and a promise maybe from the city that they'll help foot the bill or, hopefully help foot the bill in the future when we figure out how much it costs and that type thing. There's still just too many unknowns for me right now, and, I'm not gonna support it at this time, so.
Mr. Hamilton?
So I do want to thank Councilman Roddy for all his efforts to help do something to recognize the achievements of our local athletes. But I do have a lot of the same concerns. Michael kind of jumped the gun with a couple of his questions. I was like, wait a minute, do we have anything in writing from Rock Hill? I think it's a great idea, but I would love to see the city's involvement even up front with the feasibility study. And I'm wondering if anyone reached out with regards to the $5,000, if they would be interested in splitting the cost of the feasibility study.
We did not have those discussions, no, sir.
Well, I'd be willing to support it if they were also willing to put some skin in the game at the early stages as well. So I'd like to make a motion to amend to make the approval contingent upon the city agreeing to split the $5,000 cost.
Can I say something?
Hang on one second. And by the city agreeing, you mean in writing with a vote of council?
Correct.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
There is a second. Any discussion on the amended motion? Ms. Love?
Yes. You know, it is taxpayer money, but I think that there'll certainly come a time when we can get that $5,000 back from the city. I think at this point, this is something that Councilman Roddy wants to do. I think it's a county initiative, and in order to you know, maintain good relationships and do things that are you know, across the aisles, let's say in this case, with the city of Rock Hill and the county, I think this is just a gesture of. I honestly think it's somewhat Bump Roddy's legacy, because I think it's very important to him. And I'm going to support it at the $5,000, and when it comes back, I would certainly hope that the city would keep their word to whoever they've told and, you know, help fund that. But I feel like this is kind of a county initiative that is a little bit about goodwill.
Mr. Roddy, as to the motion to amend.
In the sake of good spirit, you know, we sit up here and we talk about spending millions of dollars, many millions. We just gave the Panthers $225 million, and we're talking about $5,000. And we can get into this, well, it's the taxpayers' money, it's only in Rock Hill. We can play the territorial boundaries on every deal that comes through or every situation that comes through. We spend millions of dollars in Brattonsville. We gave the Y in Lake Wiley $1 million several years ago. We spend money up here to enlighten and bring great things to this county. I've never been the one to sit up here and say, they should do it because it's there. They should do it because it's over here. When I first got on council, we had an organization come ask for $3,500. This council didn't want to give $3,500 to an organization that was feeding hungry people in a blighted area on Blackman Road, but we were giving millions elsewhere. And we get into these squabbles. We sign off on change orders on road projects, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Don't blink an eye. But when someone puts an agenda item on here for $5,000, we say, oh, it's taxpayers' money, we have to be. Let's don't go there. Because if we spend money in places that any member of this community can come up here and object to and have a legitimate objection to it. So let's don't cry broke on $5,000 when we approve fee and lose and give companies millions and millions of dollars every single meeting. So let's don't play that when it comes to something that boasts the entire county. This is not just a Rock Hill football city. Football city encompasses, York has had players in the NFL. Fort Mill has had players in the NFL. Rock Hill has had the most of them. So let's don't split hairs over a nominal $5,000. So I asked the council to approve it without going through all the hoops and bounds, because this may be a project that comes in at $25,000 that we can absorb ourselves. But the vision for this project is to have York County's logo on there as well as the city's logo. We don't know all the logistics. We don't know all the money fees. I didn't come ask this council to approve $50,000 in the blind, not knowing what the project would cost. We're saying, let's do a study to find out what we're dealing with. And you know, we can all say we need more answers. We got questions. The study will give us those answers. It will answer those questions. So let's don't ask for too much too early. And just because we do a study doesn't mean that this project will go to the next step. It may be $150,000 to do this. We may not want to cover that. But did I come and ask for $75,000 to do a project in the blind? I said, let's go the route, and staff said we can get a consultant to pull this thing together because there's still hoops and bounds we have to meet with Norfolk Southern. So I asked that we approve this without whatever the amendment is asking for, that Rock Hill pay part of the $2,500.
Anyone else adds to the amendment?
Let me just add, because I think this is a great thing. I didn't want to see this as a roadblock to getting it to occur. My assumption, maybe it's naive, but I thought certainly the city of Rock Hill will have no problem saying, yeah, we'll cover that with you. But you've talked to them more than anybody else has. Do you feel like this would be a potential problem?
I don't think it's a deal breaker, but I think it gets down into the weeds of a simple act of this council.
I have, and I'll make one comment and we'll vote. My experience with all municipalities and entities are that it's always best to have something in writing so that we all know where we stand. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
The amendment passes. We are now back, now the vote is as to approving this with Rock Hill having to approve paying for half. All those in favor, just
One
Mr. Winkler.
clarifying question. We're talking about them agreeing to half of whatever the project is, not just half of the 5,000.
Correct.
Correct. 2,500 plus whatever.
Whatever
yeah,
it is.
That's right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Council to consider approving a resolution identifying and inducing a proposed investment by a company under the code name of Daly and Ford and other matters related thereto.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
I'm a no.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Roddy's a no. Back to page 16, number 33. Council to award bid number 2691 regarding fascia repairs at the York Library to the lowest responsible bidder, First Class Construction LLC of Columbia, South Carolina, for the total project cost of $65,649.
So I just wanted to pull
You
this
have
out.
to make a motion first. That's all right.
Motion to deny.
There's a motion to deny.
Second.
There's a second. Discussion. Ms. Love.
Okay. So I wanted to pull this out because if you look through the bids and you see the total base bid plus the alternate bid, we've actually not chosen the lowest bidder. And so I feel like the lowest, I feel like the award should go to the bid that is the lowest sum of these two columns. And that would not be First Class Construction LLC. So, is Eric Rickett? Eric?
Ms. Love is right. Let me sort of explain the way how procurement looks at this. And I don't disagree with what Ms. Love is recommending here, and let me sort of try to explain why. There's a base bid, and that's sort of to get the project done. That's how procurement does the evaluation and the criteria. Eric had some of these same back and forth during the process, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. That's right now how our procurement is set up, to base the recommendation off the lowest base bid, because there's not we don't know if you're going to accept the alternate or not when you all get up here and vote on everything. My personal thought, honestly, if management is going to recommend the alternate in the agenda, we need to consider the price of the alternate in making that recommendation. Okay, that's not how this was done I do agree, I respectfully disagree with our procurement director and how that got put together. We're gonna work through that issue. But I agree with the approach Ms. Love has taken with that. Mr. Reckitt can talk a little bit about the steps that would need to be done to go with the lowest bidder. Now, there is some additional vetting that needs to be done.
Yeah, like Kevin said, it was under the direction of procurement that you would follow the base bid and not add the alternate. So I don't agree or disagree with the choice, but to proceed with the low bidder, I would not advise at this time there's no due diligence on that low bidder yet, including licensure requirements, and just want to iron all that out. So it would be my recommendation to, I don't know, if I'd suspend this.
I'd make the
move it to
recommendation
the next, yeah.
contingent upon the due diligence being done with that issue.
Or contingent upon due diligence and.
Or can we just defer it?
The motion.
Or deferred.
We can defer.
Hang on one second.
Oh, yeah.
The motion is very clear. The motion was to deny. This is not a motion to add a new bidder. This is a motion to deny. So if we need to defer this, then we need to change our motion. But all the motion is a motion to deny and stop us from approving this bid, not to go vet somebody else later.
So I would amend my motion to defer this and to do some little further investigation on who actually may be the lowest bidder, if they're qualified as the lowest
There's a
bidder.
motion to defer. Mr. Hamilton, are you okay with that amendment?
I'm fine with the amendment.
There's a motion to defer this to our next council meeting. Any more discussion?
I guess I do have one question. In the consent agenda, we have county management, procurement, and public works recommending that. Did that change?
Honestly, yes. Look, we're discussing with Ms. Love and talking with Mr. Reckitt about this, and I did discuss with the procurement director just a difference of opinion, and I do, in reviewing this, agree with Ms. Love. And this is not the normal case, this is an anomaly. And sort of here's where I fall on this ultimately. If we're going to make a recommendation to you all that you approve the base bid plus the alternate, okay, and this is a deviation from the way we've normally done things, but if we're going to make a recommendation on the alternate, we need to consider the price of the alternate when evaluating those bidders. And we didn't do that this time. That's something I think going forward I want to do. When we make a recommendation, it needs to be on the evaluation needs to be done on the entire cost of our recommendation, not just the base bid.
So yes, sir, Mr. Winkler.
I'll just say I agree that we need to look at this process somewhere along the way. It kind of seems like, and I'm not, calling any names out, it'd be smart to do it if you've done bids with us before. If you can low bid the base, then you can tack a whole lot of extra on the alternate and make more money and get the bid by low bidding the base. So I think we need to look at the process for all of this, and I'm more than happy to postpone it long enough for y'all to look at all the options again and come back to us.
Mr. Roddy.
Yeah, we should be considering the total bid versus the low bid base and expensive alternate versus the higher base, lower alternate. So the total bid, if we approved it right now, we're not getting this work done at the lowest price, total. And that goes against what we set out with procurement.
Anyone else on the motion to defer? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, that matter is deferred. Council to authorize contract negotiations regarding RFP number 2693 for consulting services for the development of York County's Economic Development Strategic Plan.
I'll move to approve. I'm not the one that asked for it to come out, but I'm.
There is a move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Any discussion? Mr. Winkler, you made the motion.
I'll just say I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll hear in a minute why this was asked to be pulled out of consent agenda, but we have voted, several times starting back to the latter part of last year to have this study done and this economic development plan put together. We got half the money from our growth team partners to pay for half of this. This is something that several council members sitting up here have asked for months. I think we were talking about this at one point. Councilmember Cox and I were talking about it at different times. I think back in February or so about an economic development plan. That's something we need. We've needed for a long time. Strategic development plan, and so that's why I made the motion to support it. That's why I will be voting to do it tonight. It's something, it's been talked about a whole lot along the way, and it's important enough that our growth partners have put up half the bill for us.
Dr. Blackwell.
And here again, I'm not pulling it out to say I'm killing it. I'm not doing that. I just want to, is David here?
He is not, but I participated in the review of the applicants.
You know, I know it was in the budget. I think last year it was maybe pulled out or whatever, but did we have something like this done when David first came on board? Did we have a consultant evaluate thing?
Well, I don't have the benefit of having been here then, so I don't know if I can answer that. I don't know that we've had a strategic plan done recently.
Well, that was some of my concern. I mean, when you're the economic development director, you really need to have a hardcore knowledge of this county more than I feel like any consultant. I mean, if David feels like it's a necessity, and like Robert said, it's kind of been knocked around a couple years now and put out the budget last year. And I knew this year I could maybe ask about it further. But I'm a little nervous about our economic development director feeling the need for a consultant when we're talking about our county. So that, I'm gonna trust Mr. Swenson's need on this, but it does concern me some, if it's necessary.
Mr. Roddy.
Am I reading this correct? We're gonna enter a contract not to exceed $100,000 for a consultant to come in and tell our economic development director how to best market this county, or what we should be doing on top of the salary that we're already paying for someone to do this job. So he's basically getting a $100,000 assistant for a short period of time to come into York County to tell us what we would probably expect him to be telling us to do. Am I reading, is this correct?
Well, I think that, if I may, I think there's a little more to it than that. I think there was several elements to the strategic plan. One of those was to evaluate our organization as an economic development organization and benchmark that against other organizations to demonstrate to council that we are doing enough in one area or maybe need to do more in another area, and compare that with other economic development and how we are from a competitive standpoint with other counties across the nation. So I think there's that piece of it. I think also to provide things to council where we've talked about some guidelines and how the incentives that we provide and how those incentives stack up against other states and what they're able to offer and when competing for the same type of industry. So I think there's a perspective they bring that we may not have here with our knowledge of the county.
And weren't we number one in job growth and job production? So what, I mean, if we're at the top of the charts and we're about to pay someone $100,000 to come in and tell us what more we can be doing where we're knocking it out of the park right now?
Well, I think, again, it's also evaluate the incentives that we provide and to give council some level of comfort that maybe the incentives that we're offering aren't too generous in order to knock something out of the park, as you say. So
I think that's council's job and that's staff's job.
Can I have you? And I wish somebody could answer that. If we did have this done David's first year, I could be totally wrong. That's just something I was kind of in the back of my head. Because if we had done it then, I'd be totally against this. And Mr. Roddy pretty much echoes what's been running through my head. But I'm trying to be understanding, but I don't like consultants much as it is. And he put it better than I could say it, the way he just made his comments. But, you know, if we definitely had a consultant the first year of David, I would not want to do it again, but I'm trying to keep an open mind here.
That would have been 7 years ago.
Was it 7 years?
Yeah. 13, 14, somewhere right around there.
5 or 7,
Yeah,
I still wouldn't want to do it again, but.
I've got a comment.
Love.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, we just came through the biggest negotiations we'll probably ever go through with anybody, and we made it. We made it through that, and I think we made the right choice in the end, but, you know, I guess my question is, this says that, this is, let me see, I just want to be sure I'm reading this right, that it's, so we're approving for you to enter into contract negotiations for a total cost not to exceed $100,000. After successful negotiations, Economic Development and the county manager will return to council with a contract recommendation. So after successful negotiations, I'm just confused by that sentence there. I mean, so after successful negotiations, to bring that number down, is that what we're negotiating, or?
Well, it'll come back before us once there's a contract agreement on that. We'll still have to approve the dollar amount, but they cannot agree to more than $100,000 at this point.
Is
But
that 100,000?
even if it's 85,000, it still comes back before us to approve the contract.
So what we are approving is just for you to go and negotiate. There's nothing being spent, and it'll come back to us, and, I mean, I don't understand why we wouldn't approve that, but, again, I do have the same concerns of, why we're doing that. So.
Yeah, I have the same question. Well, I had the same question that Councilwoman Love did. Also, you mentioned the strategic partners who would be willing to pay half. So is this a cost to council to not exceed $100,000, or is that a total cost?
That's total cost.
So council's cost, once it comes before council again to approve the contract, our cost would actually be 50% of whatever the negotiated amount is. You know, we're not voting on the actual contract tonight, but I share a lot of the concerns that Councilman Roddy voiced, as well as Dr. Blackwell. And frankly, anytime we have to hand a consultant money to do just about anything, it seems like we need to pay a consultant before we do anything around here. And every time we do, it kind of makes my stomach turn. So I'm willing to support it tonight, but I do think we need to continue to hear from David about the need for this and why he thinks it's necessary and what he hopes to extract from it and value before we actually vote on a contract.
May I ask another? Is he on vacation? Why is he not here?
No, I talked to him just before the meeting, and honestly, it was a consent agenda item, so I excused him from tonight's meeting. Okay. That was my call.
Okay.
And I have a few comments when you get back to this end of the room.
I'm looking.
All right.
Go.
A couple of things. One, I believe this is out of the product development fund, out of the 50,000 that is out of his product development fund, I believe, so.
This was a reappropriation. It was in the 2021 budget, reappropriated from the prior year's budget. There's a portion of that fund, the Economic Development Fund, if y'all remember, we pulled it out of the general fund. It's a special revenue fund now. A portion of the revenue going into that comes from the 10% off the top that we take. That's the product development you're speaking of. The rest is the transfer from the general fund. We do not have this money specifically earmarked as from that product development fund, but you could look at it as a portion is being paid from that.
And in the past, what we've said part of this is yes, we are, number one in the state, but everybody else is looking to be number one in the state. And the time, in my opinion, as a business owner for 14 years now, and managing other people's businesses for most of my life, the time to decide to see how you can do things better is not after somebody's knocked you down to the bottom. The time to see how you do things better is when you're trying to stay on top and make sure that you're changing with the times. And I think the state even agrees with that enough. I believe we have to update all of our land use plans and all the other plans every 5 years anyway, don't we? It's a 10-year major overhaul, but every 5 years we've got to look at it and update it. Things change. Even if we did do this 7 years ago when David came on, a lot of stuff's changed in the last 7 years. Taxes, a lot of tax laws have changed. The economy's definitely changed. And part of what we said was we wanted them to look at, the consultants to look at what type of industries we need to be going after to complement what's changed in the state. What new industries have come to the state. You look at what happened up in upstate South Carolina when BMW came. and look at what happened in Charleston. You know, the complementary things for that. That's part of what we want this consultant to look at for that, is to tell us, you know, where we need to be concentrating on that to maybe get away from the distribution centers and the things that Councilmember Cox is getting overrun with right now, to concentrate more on how to get those other types of employers here besides those that are the low-hanging fruit that, yeah, we've gotten a lot of them coming in, but that's, you know, not always. I said earlier, you know, I'm looking for tax base in District 3 and jobs in District 3. I'd love to have some of the higher paying jobs, but right now, I'll take the low-hanging fruit. But if we can do a study to figure out how we can get more of those high-paying office jobs or manufacturing jobs to this county than what we've been doing, instead of having more and more distribution centers come, I think it's money well spent. And the growth partners do as well, since they're willing to put up half the bill for doing it, whatever that cost may be. So I support 100% moving forward with the contract negotiations to do this. And we'll, the way it's written, I believe, when this is done, there will be some council members and citizens that'll be part of this committee that look at what they're going to study and what the plan should cover. And it even tells you in here, you know, we talk about working with the different jurisdictions. It's takes into place the entire county, and we want to include the incorporated jurisdictions in with this plan as well. So I support it 100%.
I have another comment.
Ms. Love.
I'm sorry. I'm just following in Dr. Blackwell's footprints. So.
And you have 2 more times to go.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing is, beware of low-hanging fruit when it comes to growth and development. I will tell you that. That's the only advice I give for the next few years. That's my advice. So another concern that I have about this, and speaking about the growth partners, and I'm not familiar with the committee because I see the committee of the 10 firms and stuff like that, but you know, I do feel like this is David Swenson's job to do. And I feel like, you know, if we are a magnet for business and for growth, and quite frankly, it's probably an easy job, because people are looking to come here. And I just want to reiterate that the growth partners, to me, are somewhat of a conflict of interest. And, you know, they are the ones who are benefiting from everything that we do, sometimes over and above the county, in my opinion. So I just really want to understand this a lot more than I do. And frankly, I haven't had the time to be more involved in economic development. It's kind of up my alley, and I probably should be. So if you just kind of trusted along the way that everybody was doing the right thing and that we were making the best decisions, and I have some question marks now, but I just want to say for the record that the growth partners, to me, are somewhat of a conflict of interest, and I'm going to keep a closer eye on this going forward.
And with that, I'm going to say this. I think that we should applaud our economic development group. They have done a fantastic job. They've brought thousands of jobs to York County. You're not number one in South Carolina in job growth if they're not doing it, their work. And they have worked hard, and I would disagree with you that this is an easy job. I think it's a very difficult job. It's easy to get jobs. It's difficult to get good, high-paying, quality jobs that people in our county want and that we want our children to have. And that is what economic development has done year after year after year. And that's I look at this, as we talk about this a lot. We talk about how planning and economic development are intertwined, and how these are literally, if we have bad planning, we have bad economic development, and vice versa. This helps meld those. David Swenson, nor anyone in planning, no one in the planning department knows business. He doesn't understand the planning side of it. You need that person to come in and marry the two so that we understand what good growth can look like. Because I can tell you, in Lancaster County, they are bringing manufacturing jobs there that they are very excited about. Lancaster County leads South Carolina in population growth. They're 12th or 14th in the United States. They are fast growing. That is our next competitor. Right after that competitor is Chester. And there are a lot of people who'd love to be York County in 10 years, and if we don't get our act together and make sure that we can marry planning and economic development, we are going to regret it. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none.
No.
One no. Motion passes. Time for committee and other reports. Zoning committee.
Zoning committee. So we met, Councilmember Cox and I were at the meeting along with planning staff and county management and county attorney. And we had three things on our agenda. One was a presentation with Indigo Rush on Kettle Song subdivision, which is down on Porter Road, potentially down on Porter Road.
901, sorry. It was 901.
Oh, 901. I thought they mentioned Porter Road. Okay. So we did mention a plan for Porter Road or something during that meeting. And so they made a grand presentation of what they would like to do there. We just, you know, I told them kind of what I thought of that. And Ms. Cox had already had a meeting with them and told them what she thought. And we were a little bit on different wavelengths there. But it was actually a very, very good presentation, a very good meeting. And then we had the discussion regarding green space requirements and clear cutting that we had talked about at the last council meeting. We had asked for, I think, for the planning and zoning department to come back and give us an update, or for David Hudspeth to come back and give us an update on what we could do there. And so in the discussion, well, let me go ahead. I'm going to skip number 3 real quick because we didn't get to number 3 because we ran out of time at the meeting. But so back to number 2. We had a very, I think, revealing discussion and learned that semantics are very important and that sometimes we are using words as council members and the meanings of those words are very different. I remember once there was a case where someone told me legally I needed to provide something in a reasonable amount of time. I felt 30 minutes was reasonable, and they felt that it was should be immediately. So I realized there's a different terminologies mean different things to different people. So the planning staff, Jonathan and the planning staff had put together a presentation for us, and I want you to see that presentation and hear from him so that council members are aware that when we talk about clear cutting and stopping the mass grading, what they hear is something different. And it became very obvious to us, to all of us during this meeting. And so I want to make the point that what we had asked for originally and in all of our conversations and talking about Bonham Road and specific things like that, you know, what they heard was that we wanted to help with the runoff into the lake and things like that. So they did put something in place, and we did pass that, and that was the ordinance that allows a developer to only clear 20 acres at a time without special permission. So when they made that presentation to us at the meeting, the last thing that my question to them was, well, where's the picture of what that development looks like now? And I think that's when they realized, oh, she's concerned with the end result and the fact that there are no trees versus the fact that, you know, what we tried to fix. So I think this will clarify for everybody the meaning of clear cutting and mass grading, and let everybody also know that our work here is not done and that David Hudspeth is not going to have an answer for us tonight on the solution that I feel like at least 5 of us are looking for. Jonathan, if you will just present this, I think it's great, but I don't think it answers the question that we as a council had, but it does clarify a lot for us.
Yeah, that was very well said. Thank you. I appreciate that introduction to the topic. So, as you stated, it may seem like semantics at first, but when we're talking about making code changes in the Code of Ordinances, these terms are very important to nail down and make sure we're all speaking the same language. So, as you can see on this diagram, we've got a bunch of interrelated terms, but they are distinct terms. So you can see green space, open space, conservation. So just by looking at this diagram, you might assume that all green space is considered to be open space, but not all open space is necessarily green space. So I'll quickly go through these to describe the differences. So green space, these are grassed, wooded, vegetated public areas for recreation or aesthetic. And the key word there is public. So when you think about green space, we're thinking about scenic boulevards, we're thinking about public parks, waterfronts, common greens, that type of thing. So truly public, available to any citizen that might be interested in utilizing that space. When we talk about open space, these are communal lands or waters for recreation, they're amenities, they're potentially buffers. These include natural or landscaped areas, recreation amenities, and also greenways. So open space, they might be green, but they might not. So you can think about other spaces like courtyards, children's playgrounds, civic plazas, tennis courts, swimming pools inside of developments. These are all examples of open space. And we get into conservation. So here we're talking about the preservation of land, natural resources, or sites of historical and cultural value. So if you think about the Riverbend Park, that's an example of conservation. Wetland areas, historic Bratton'sville, or private property that might have a conservation easement placed over it so that it doesn't have development in the future. These are all examples of conservation. So now for mass grading and clear cutting. So mass grading is site preparation. You're moving earth, you're altering the topography, you're preparing a site for building pads, so you can construct buildings and other facilities. So a very obvious example of mass grading, we're pushing a whole bunch of that South Carolina right around. Clear cutting, this is indiscriminate removal of all trees from an area at once. You might be doing this for a couple of different reasons. The first being as a precursor to mass grading. You can't move the dirt if there are trees on it, so that's the first step. But you also might be timbering your property for years, decades, centuries in some cases. So here's an example of a timbered site. If you were going to continue to use that site for timbering, you would allow trees to grow back and timber it again in the future, but otherwise you might grade that out and start constructing buildings. Lastly, we have tree preservation or tree save. This is retaining existing trees that are on a site throughout the entire development process. And in the case that some trees can't be preserved, some have to be replanted to meet a certain benchmark. And then for buffers and buffer yards, these are dedicated strips of land that have natural or planted vegetation that are intended to separate uses, properties, or protect certain natural features. So we in York County have quite a bit on the books already in regards to a lot of these terms and preserving trees. So some examples that we have here, we have subdivision perimeter buffers, so anything that has a density over 1 dwelling unit per acre has to provide a buffer around the entire subdivision. We have buffers around Lake Wiley and the Catawba River, certain streams. We have buffers around certain land uses. So if you have a more intense land use, you need a stronger buffer to less intense land use. We also have conservation subdivisions on the books. So these are in AGC and RUD zoning districts in which you are permitted to have smaller than normal lots in exchange for having a greater degree of open space. We also have a tree preservation ordinance that has quite a bit to it. Included in that are tree surveys, and for the moment you can have an aerial substitution where you're estimating the amount of trees that are on site and how many of those that you need to retain through the development process. We also have incentives for retaining more trees than are required. And so the new component that Councilwoman Love had referenced is a portion of the stormwater ordinance that was passed last year in 2019. It's called the smallest practical grading. So you have to demonstrate on your plans, your grading plans, that you are disturbing the least amount of area as possible. And if you are going over 20 acres, you need to have a narrative that describes why that is necessary and show why that is necessary. So to cover that example in more detail, this is the Cypress Point. This is pre-development around 2016. So this subdivision, the preliminary plat was approved in 2014. So it's hadn't started quite yet in 2016, but now it's underway. So you can see what it looks like in 2019. So as you can see, a substantial portion of the trees were cleared all at one time.
And how many acres is that?
I don't know about 170. I'm kidding. So these are some of the photographs from the site as of 2 weeks ago. So as you can see, it's very much still underway, under development. There are some homes that are being constructed right now. There are some homes that are occupied right now. There's still a lot of land disturbance. They're still working on some roads in some of the areas. But you can see that when you're inside of the development, there's not a whole lot of trees present. There are some. The picture to the top right-hand corner, that's a pocket park. That's about a half acre, I believe. So that's one of the components of the site that has some trees on it. And there are, of course, buffers around the entire perimeter of this subdivision. So this is what their construction phasing plan looks like. So you've got the different colors to denote the different phases of development. So if we think about that 20-acre limitation that we have on the books now that we didn't have on the books when this was originally approved, here in red is phase 1. That's roughly about 20 acres worth of disturbance for those lots and any of the roads that go in. So we would prefer that they phase rather than cutting out all the trees at one time, that they cut out only the trees necessary for each successive phase. So the rest of these phases, if they had to come in under the new regulation, they would perhaps have phases a little more logical, that would be oriented towards that first phase 1, but because they cut up the entire site at one time, it's a little more disjointed. So I also wanted to point out that in addition to the lots that are being developed, all of these blue spaces indicate either detention ponds or open space amenities. There's a clubhouse, there's a swimming pool in there. So these are other components that are going to necessitate more trees being cut down, but those are open space elements. And you'll see, you can't really read the numbers because it's a little small, but in that top left-hand corner, this is a snippet of the tree ordinance requirements. So those are individual lots throughout the entire development. Every single lot is required to have a certain number of trees on it after the site is completed, and so that is based on lot size. So I just wanted to make that clear as well. So addressing tree preservation, as Councilwoman Love discussed, what we heard from them is that reasonable mass grading as a development technique and small lot sizes are not necessarily the concern. What is the concern is a loss of existing trees during the development process and a lack of trees on site post-development. So some of the different angles of attack on solutions are stricter enforcement of the existing protections that we have. Right now, we accept from developers an aerial photograph depicting how many trees they have on site. We estimate the amount of acreage that they have and how much they might be required to retain. Technically, we could require that they do a tree survey and they inventory all trees over 4 inches in diameter at 4.5 feet high. So that would be a stricter enforcement of it and would require a more thorough examination of the trees that are on site and which ones are worth saving and which ones would be worth letting go during the development process. The other angle of attack is a new ordinance or modifying what we have. So we could enhance our existing protections. So just as a minor example, right now, York County does not permit the removal without special permission of grand trees. So this is anything over 32 inches in diameter for that trunk. As a comparison, in Greenville County, that number is 12 inches. So we have a much higher threshold to force someone to retain a tree without special permission to remove it. And then another angle is to add new protections and new zoning techniques that we don't have on the books already to preserve the number of trees. These are things like cluster subdivisions and also interim buffers, requiring that if a site is to be graded, that they have buffers in place on an interim basis, even if they're not required at full build-out. So those are just some examples, and staff is researching into those thoroughly right now. Thank you.
question if I could. Just one quick.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I think it's,
Since he
at this point,
presented, I
he
just-
gave a presentation, I think you can get to ask questions. Go ahead.
Is it feasible to not prefer phasing, but require phasing?
That is possible, and that's one of the things that's top of mind for changes for me.
The complaint, and I'm gonna use, Mr. Winkler talks about, that resonated with me more than anything else, was that a large developer comes in, he takes down every tree for a couple of 100 acres and just puts a big barrier around the outside and hopes for the best. A small developer doing a 1 acre lot has, if he's doing 2 side by side, has to put fence in the first, do the first one, erosion control, and then erosion control the second one, which costs, which just adds to the cost. Can any of this actually change that? So that we can, because I don't think our problem is with small local builders. I think we're more worried about the large tract guys.
Right, so when you're talking about silt fencing and that type of thing for the small developments that are doing just 1 or 2 lots at a time, that's something that we addressed with the storm water ordinance amendments, so that's something that you had second reading for tonight. So this would be independent of that, so a related topic, but independent.
I'm sure we'll hear from our builders whether or not it actually addressed it.
If I could clarify that point.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hudson.
The reason the individual builders put up their own silt fence for each lot is because that wasn't done in an overall comprehensive manner for the whole subdivision. So when, say, something more similar to Cypress Point comes in, they do a stormwater plan for the whole subdivision, and they retain the sediment on the whole entire site. So so that individual lots don't have to have an individual silt fence. I mean, they do keep them out of the roadway and things like that, but the focus is to keep the sediment on the site. When that's not done from a comprehensive subdivision standpoint, in other words, there's not silt fence around the entire development, then they have to do it individually. When the lots come in for the 1 acre, you get a permit to do a 1 acre clearing. There's not a common plan involved, and so you have to do the silt fence for that particular lot. I think that's the issue Mr. Winkler's raising that has to be addressed by the individual builder.
And Michael, thank you for bringing that up. I've gotten tired of beating my head against the wall asking that question. I'm still not sure why we can't do, common sense tells us, everybody sitting in this room, whether you're a builder or not, knows a silt fence is not gonna hold back 200 acres of runoff. There's got to be something more. It'll hold back that 1 acre. If it's done properly, it'll probably hold, unless it's one of these 100-year storms or something. But even a good, just South Carolina thunderstorm is going to run into the river and the lake and everything else on 200 acres running into that one silt fence. That's what I keep saying we've got to figure out how to address in the ordinance somehow.
Yeah, and as the amount of disturbance grows, the amount of techniques needed to control possible erosion and sediment loss, those numbers of implements you need to put in increase. So this goes well beyond just the silt fence. So you have sediment ponds that need to be put in. So there are more measures than just the silt fence, and those obviously get more expensive the more you're disturbing.
I think we still got to figure out, we're not doing it right yet because it still runs into the rivers and the lakes and out in the streets, so we still got to do something.
So the one picture that is missing from that is one that I had requested, and that's the aerial view of what that development looks like today, because what you saw in that last picture is a little bit misleading, because it looks like somebody went out and took a picture of all the trees. And what is actually there, what you just saw, those are the only trees on that whole acreage. And the little blue spaces that are like green space, the only square one to the right, that's the pool and the pool house. The rest of those are not green spaces. They are not walkable. They are not green spaces. So in this development, it would have looked very different. It had the requirement been, which what I feel like it needs to be, and that's 50% green space. And it would have been less houses and more trees kept and more green space. And I ultimately think that's not on the list of solutions that was given, but I think that's kind of, somehow that's worded where we don't really know exactly what you're saying. And that's a big part of the problem. But, you know, I feel like, you know, I'd still like to ask for the next time, you know, let's give another 30 days and find out what the answer is, because we got kind of waylaid in the answer this time because we realized we're talking about different things. But I'd still like to know, you know, what are the best solutions for this? We talked about, again, raising the minimum lot size. We've talked about the 50% green space, and there are multiple things. And I would like for council to hear what all of those things are, because, you know, sometimes just what makes sense in our heads is just worded differently. But you know, the net result of what we have now is a totally, what I call, clear-cut, bare, no tree development with a gazillion homes in it, and that's it. And that is, I believe, the complaint. I believe that's the overall complaint. But
Yeah,
thank you. But because that was a good lesson. I learned it.
And we're happy to workshop any of it because this is a very complicated issue and there are so many interrelated pieces. And some solutions are more practical than others. I will point out that in addition to the 20-acre disturbance requirement, you know, there are other components that were enacted by this council that would make Cypress Point, it wouldn't be approved as it was approved in 2014 today. Two of those are, prior to 2015, there were no density limitations in the zoning districts in York County. So I believe that is an RD1 property. So the density limit there is 2 dwelling units per acre. As it was approved, it was about 2.3. So they would have lost about 50 homes compared to what they were approved for in 2014. In addition to that, council also raised the minimum lot size in 2017. So I believe the average lot size in Cypress Point is about 7,100 square feet. So in order to get that decrease today, they would have to increase their perimeter buffers to 100 feet. So they'd have to double it from 50. So that would not have been approved if it were to come in today.
Thank you, Jonathan. So that's my report.
You will go last from now on.
Put her at the back.
Mr. Roddy, you
All
get
right.
to follow. You have
Yeah.
presentations and speakers as well?
I don't know how you follow that, but I'll try. Public Works Committee met July 30th at 5:30 p.m. to discuss all options for York County to get into the water business. That's water waste treatment and the water business. We've kind of directed staff to look at all options, whether that's public-private partnership, working with different municipalities throughout the county. They should have some sort of report for us within, I think we gave them, was it 90 days? Yeah, it seemed like it was just yesterday. So they're gonna formulate some preliminary idea of kind of where we need to go and where this thing's gonna head, and if we need to take it the next step, looking at getting, I hate to say this word, maybe a consultant to come in and kind of direct us and look at the longevity of the project of time, costs, benefits, pros, cons, everything. We had this discussion several years ago when Jim Baker was the county manager, and we were so close to doing a deal, and there was someone over in Fort Mill that kind of pulled the plug on us at the last minute. But now he works for us, so hopefully we'll get the green light from staff and all that's gonna go into this. That was part one of the meeting. Part two was the discussion of the difficulty has been to secure an additional site for the recycling center in Fort Mill. Part of that discussion led to, there's some adjacent property to the other site, I forget the name of it in Fort Mill. We're looking to expand that one. What's the site in Fort Mill that we're looking to expand?
It's Fort Mill East.
Okay, we're looking, there's some property next to Fort Mill East that we feel like we can secure and make that one more accommodating to accept the additional traffic from closing down Baxter in a couple of years. Of course, we know the dirt in Fort Mill is extremely expensive, and for us to secure that site, we're looking at, I think it was somewhere around $5 million to get that property, get it developed, and start up a recycling center. And one of the other options to spending $5 million on a recycling center was to secure some land. I think the land cost was nominal, probably about $150,000, to secure some additional land to expand Fort Mill East to accommodate what traffic would be going to Baxter 6 miles away. We don't feel like that's a tremendous burden to put on someone who's looking to use our recycling centers. So that could become the option if we're unable to find some reasonably priced land in Fort Mill. So if anybody out there has some reasonably priced land in Fort Mill, let us know. The third thing was Public Works I think they have the application process in the works now with DHEC to basically expand an old sale. When we say expand, most people think expansion means this way, but we're actually looking to go back to a previous site to lay a covering and dump back onto an existing site and go up with it. It's cheaper to go up now versus getting new sales to go out with it. So we have, staff is getting an application ready, or Public Works is getting an application ready to go through the channels of DHEC, and if we're able to secure it, this will add another, I think he said, up to 100 years to the life expectancy of our landfill right over here off Highway 5. So that's definitely a good option to go on top of what we've already used versus acquiring additional land out to start more sales. We're going to line it and go up with it. And that was basically what the meeting was about. But the most important and most exciting part was we're now starting to get back to some of those talks that we had 7-8 years ago. And if we had took up the water treatment facility and getting into the water business, we probably would have had something on the ground or very close to it now with all the permitting and things that have to take place to get into it. And I think this is a very viable option for the survival of this county and its growth that we're experiencing, and it kind of puts us in control of our destination or our destiny with the water, because right now there's only one game in town, and if you can control the water, you control the people. And we want to make sure that we're not kept scrap over the barrel by just one water provider. So to me, I think it's a good option to at least explore and look into. And it may be something that we can get into, but then when the price tag comes in, we'll have to make that critical decision as to, do we really want to get into it? But we'll have all the pros and cons going forward. So that was my committee report.
Finance and Operations Committee.
Finance and Operations met today at 5:30 and considered applications for service on several boards. The recommendations from the committee were Zoning Board of Appeals, District 5, Reagan Craig, subject to the determination that the existing representative cannot serve his 2 full terms. Lake Wiley Commission, Arthur Beers. York County Forever, there was a vacancy in District 2. The recommendation is for Grace Fowler for a 1st term. Recommendation for Mark Kramer for a 2nd term on the Rock Hill York County Airport Commission. Anna Mooney for a 1st term for the at-large seat on the H-Tax Committee. Margaret Crawford Parson Willens for the York County Culture and Heritage Commission. Charles Williams for a 1st term on the COG. Deborah Dolland for a 2nd term on the York County Library Board. My finger's not working. Melinda Love for a 2nd term, Bill Crute for a 1st term, Teresa Bass for a 2nd term, and Marion Harriet for a 2nd term on the Employee Grievance Committee. We also received a very brief finance update and discussed an item that is not going anywhere, so.
Thank you. Citizens concern, no, I'm sorry, council member new non-agenda comments. I can't imagine there's anything that hasn't been talked about already. Very good. Tom, come on up and share with us.
You want to go back to the first slide? There we go. Hi, Tom Smith, 938 Timber Creek Drive, York, South Carolina. Really appreciate the council giving us some time to speak with you tonight. My son, Quinn Smith, who is my technical support, is with us, as well as Tim Heline, representing builder and developer, and Johnny Nealons, who's over here as a local builder. The purpose of tonight's meeting is really to just try to give you a feel for what is really going on with the true local builder, local developer in York County. When we look at that symbol where it says all residents and businesses can thrive and succeed, it really has become very difficult for us as a local builder, local developer to survive in the county. If you take what we do, we build on, or I develop 1 to 2 acre home sites, sometimes some larger ones mixed in. And will it reach? Do you want me to get it? So the essence of it is we're homegrown. The fact is that the fellows behind me and the people that you'll see next week, on next Monday, that will come out to speak, are basically from this area. They're vested in this area. They're from here. You know, when the recession hit in '07, we were still here. We came back, made our livelihoods, but we're part of York County. We're vested in York County. When you look at a local builder, small local independent builder, we're looking at somebody that builds 2 to 10 houses per year. If somebody's doing 10 houses, they've had a great year. Price point's $250,000 to $700,000, and really that $250,000 price point is probably low. I would say it's more three or better. The emphasis, though, is that local builder employs local contractors, local plumbers, electricians, termite, you name it, it's all local. And on top of that, they support local vendors and suppliers, so everything is local. Carter Lumber, James Darby with the wells, lighting from Rock Hill, Gateway Plumbing Supply. So when you look at us, we're not in that barrel that we get thrown into with the other builders. Okay, we're not national, we're not mass grade, we're small, local, and the fact is, when you look at what we bring to the table, we're vested in the community, we're part of the community, and we buy and sell, and we're the community. So the issues concerning the local builders really finding a place to build. I don't know how many times over the last year or so that you guys have looked at, you know, road frontages on existing county roads. I mean, now we're at 150, which is a nice frontage. Our typical lot is 150 by 300, even inside a development. But that pressure that you felt as far as these road frontage stuff, it's because they don't have any place to go. They don't have any place to go. Affordability, you know, land cost and infrastructure costs, but if you look at the price of a lot for the builder today, it's typically 15 to 20% of the total house cost. So if your house is $300,000, a cheap lot's $45,000. Typically it's in the 16 to 17%. Permitting with York County is another consideration that is concerning these guys. Lost time, waiting on permits. Number one is stormwater, time and cost. Now we've been meeting with Mark Boland over the last year, and that is coming around to some degree. But what's probably stands out to me the most is on the ground, they're putting that same silt fence and that same construction drive that they did 15 years ago, but it's costing them twice as much to get it permitted. It's taken them 60 to 90 days to get a permit sometimes. And then they have to pay a third-party consultant to watch the site. So it's just another layer of just time, cost. And then your fees, of course, stormwater we've talked about, the lots and the infrastructure. When I sell a lot to these builders, there's fees that are rolled in there because my fees that I get hit with as a local developer, as far as mitigation, transportation studies, I mean, whatever that's rolled in there, I'm rolling that into the lot cost. And then lastly, we're talking about growth fees such as impact fees. You know, I guess what hurts the local builder and the local developer is that we've been impacted by residential growth that's not part of our nature. It's been brought in, it's the mass grade stuff, and it inundates our schools, it inundates our utilities, and it inundates our roads. And the residual of that is that it's more expensive for us to survive. And you can literally look from east to west. You can go from Fort Mill. I mean, there's no local builders left in Fort Mill unless they're building 700,000 to 800,000. I mean, there truly isn't. I mean, we used to develop on Dobie Bridge Road. We did Oxford East, West, Beckingham, and those were even high-priced developments at that time. But if you look and just sweep it with a brush, Lake Wiley, there's no local builders, or you know, we were on Pole Branch Road for a while. We can't exist anymore, and so we're out in the Clover and the York area. But so it's telling that we're shrinking in numbers. So, but as far as the local developers, 4 to 25 lots, I mean, if you can find something along a county road that's feasible and lays well enough and you can split it up, you might find that. Typically, when we do a phase, our lots are from, one phase is from mid-20s to maybe mid-30s is our absorption rate for one phase in our developments. We're 1 to 2 acre home sites on well and septic, so again, we don't impact the utilities. We provide building sites for local builders. We sell to individuals who want to move to York County. So again, that's local builders, and then when the individuals come in and they buy a lot from us, they use a local builder to build a custom home. So whether it's speculative or custom, it's local. When you look at the employers though, we are a large employer of a local workforce, and then we also support the local vendors and businesses and suppliers. Our bank is South State Bank. We've been with them a number of years. I can tell you, if you talk to Kevin Blackwood over in South State, we're probably the only development company that they're funding right now in South Carolina. That's because we can sell to individuals and builders, and we've been doing it for 30 years. We also support, of course, the local utility companies, such as York Natural Gas, Comporium, and York Electric. But even with the gas company and the electric company, we're being hit with fees and things of that nature that we were never hit with before, but it's because of the mass grade building that has come over to us. For example, York Electric is now charging for the poles, your streetlights. Well, it's because some of these dense developments, they have a pole about every third house, and now these homeowners associations can't afford the bills, so they're pulling the poles. So what does that do? When I come asking for a pole, they're like, well, it's gonna cost you so much per pole. I'm like, look, we haven't had an issue. In our developments, they're low impact, so we might have 5 to 7 poles throughout the development because it's out in the country. It's just what we do, and it hasn't been an issue, but now it is. York Natural Gas, if they're requiring all of our people to either use the main heating supply for gas and the water heater. If not, in my restrictions, I have to write that individual will pay the gas company $2,700 or $2,500 or whatever their cost factor is to come to our developments. For 30 years, we've been supplying, customers that use gas in our developments, and now I'm having to do this, not because of what I do or what we do, it's because of a residual effect of a different type of development. So issues concerning us, land, there's a lot of land out there, but we're sort of picky, so we look at stuff with good soils, good topography, but the main thing is because of what the mass grade is paying, 30, 40,000 an acre, the residual effect resonates out into the countryside. So our costs have gone up. Infrastructure, permitting, timelines, traffic studies, bonding, mitigation, that's all because of mass grading. The traffic studies went, it used to be 100 lots, now it went down to 30. So if you do 30 lots, which, you know, that's a pretty small development, you have to do a traffic study. And so that's fine, we'll do our part if we need to chip in for a turn lane or things of that nature. But really, the essence of where that came from was not due to what our impact on again, the infrastructure or what's going on in York County. Vesting from the start. I wanted to come speak to you guys a year ago, and I was talked out of it. So I wanted to see where it was going. Well, the vesting part is that our staff does a great job, but there's so much going on. Sometimes we're hiring new reviewers and things of that nature. In stormwater, a couple of years ago, we were looking at new reviewers, so my reviews were slowed. That ended up putting me out of the summer into the fall. It's been wet for 2 years. So I took a phase that I was supposed to do this fall, and I split it, and I just did 17 lots out in the middle of an open field that was, we don't clear trees, it was an open field. But it was easy to build on. Between me doing that phase and opening in June, and then rolling into the same phase in the wooded area and opening up in August, my pipe fees went from $700 to $1,100. My bonding went from $20 a foot to $30 a foot. Same development. My whole development had been approved at one time, all right? I'm not talking preliminary plat, I'm talking road drawings, the whole 9 yards, and yet we weren't vested. So there's no consistency. So we're getting hit from public and private, and then of course stormwater has gone up and up and up. And thank God we've got Mark Boland, who's our first engineer in stormwater since I can't remember. I don't think we've ever had one. So I have an engineer design plans that go for review. And their question, anyhow, so that's a whole nother thing. Rules change because of different styles of development. So again, all the stuff that I listed above, because of mass grading and low density. Look, we need mass grading, we need compact growth, but it needs to be done in a uniform manner. It needs to be done where it doesn't inundate our schools, it doesn't inundate our road systems, and it doesn't inundate our utilities. We're on our third sewer line in 25 years going down 274 to Rock Hill. That's our third one. So we just can't keep the status quo if it's not working. County change in policy and zoning. Recently, we've had some changes in RUD, which was great. These guys changed RUD, which is where we develop out in the country, a 1 acre lot and a 1 acre average. It used to be 1 to 2. On the other hand, they took AGC and went 1 acre, what used to be a 1 acre lot and 3 acre average. It's all now 5 acre tracts, which is ironic because Shiloh Farms was our first development we did in 1988. We went in and paved the roads back then. You didn't have to pave roads for 5 acre tracts back in '88, but we did it. And after that, the county changed the rule, all paved roads. But we could not afford to do another Shiloh Farms today. It's just, your cost per foot on a road right now is $1.85 a foot for a grass ditch. $1.85 a foot. So, that's $185 a foot, excuse me. So it's quite expensive. You hear me rattle on and go through this, but all I'm telling you is because of a different style of development, the residual effect, it's getting tough for us to survive. So as far as impact fees, that's another layer coming. Fort Mill is different from Lake Wiley. If you really know what happened down in Fort Mill and, a certain industry, switched gears and went into real estate and had 5 pods of development and did their own thing. And of course you got an interstate there, and it's, Fort Mill's Fort Mill. It's a great place, but it's very busy. Well, Lake Wiley is not, Fort Mill, it's busy too. But once you get out of Lake Wiley, which now has a moratorium in place to figure things out, which is, thanks to Allison, that's the last time you guys saw me speak, was back in February when we implemented the moratorium. Clover and surrounding areas is rural. So if you looked at a map, besides we've done 25 developments over the last 30 years, 4 in Lake Wiley, everything else is out in the country. Okay, everything else. So the growth within the school district benefits all the businesses. So why is our local industry being targeted for a specific fee? We don't bring the growth on. The area brings the growth on. Economic development brings the growth on. The schools bring the growth on. We've got some of the highest rated schools, in South Carolina. But yet, We are getting a one-time benefit, whether you're a builder or a developer, one-time benefit out of growth for a one-time fee, but yet all the other businesses, they'll get a residual, impact from growth. For example, your local pharmacy, your local tire store, your local ice cream shop, they're gonna get business from growth from here on out. But I guess it was a consultant that came up with this, hey, let's target builders. The problem is there's difference in builders. There's the national production, it's all numbers, and then there's the local guys that are custom with quality over quantity. Or do you want that's the rub. So, similarities in the issues between the builders and developers. Builders can't find lots to build on. We have a tough time with rules changing and it just increases, and there's no consistency there. So, but both of us have issues with permitting in York County, infrastructure costs, stormwater fees, lost time due to money, due to delays with the county, and now we've got impact fees. We just have to make you aware that it's tough for us to survive. And so what are we looking at? We're looking at going to different areas. We're looking at going down to Chester. We've gone to Cherokee County. I've done a development up in Kings Mountain. And it's a lot easier. It's a lot less headaches. And that would be a shame if the true local business guys are leaving. But as far as economic development, so if you look at a builder uses about 50 to 60 subs, per house. So you've got a grading contractor, surveyor, mason, just go on down the list. Well, we usually average about 6 builders in a development. And on the flip side, we're over here with attorneys, engineers, environmentalists, surveyors, bankers, grading contractors, and such. We use 40. So combined, in one phase of our development, we're looking at 340 local jobs. 340 local jobs, and we usually do 3 to 4 phases for the life of a development. So that's every year. If we talk about investment, Sanders Landing is over on Lawrence Road right now, 65 lots. We've got $3 million invested, 20 lots. If we sell 20 lots a year, house price, our average house price is $367,500. When you see that $367,500, that's just not a number taken out of an air. That is a development proposal that I've submitted to South State, and we've got a development pro forma, and I have to get $367,500, and I've got to predict how many lots I'm going to sell, and I have contingencies in there, but it's for soils, rock, things of that nature. But if you take that $367,500 and you multiply it times 20, that's over $7 million in investment in 1 year. And then you take 65 lots times the 367, that's 23 million, 24 million in the life of a development. That's all local investment. Those are local jobs, local people, local suppliers. So May Green Homestead, we've done 25 developments, York County. Many of them actually at a higher price point, particularly up in Lake Wally, is 500,000 and up. When you get into that 500,000 and up, 80% of our buyers are empty nesters, no kids. So 25 developments have contributed well over 500 million in the last 31 years. Last time I talked in front of you guys, I was listening, and that same night you were talking about fee in lieu of. Somebody came in and said, okay, we're gonna do 500 million into this county over 30 years, and it's gonna be all local jobs, and we're gonna buy everything local, and we're gonna do it the right way. And by the way, it's gonna be, we don't cut the trees down. Would we not be considered for a fee in lieu of? Right now, all we get is a fee. We don't get any lieu, we just get fee. So, this is just a little illustration, the stick figures, but these are just stick figures. We're gonna do a little clip here of some of the local people, local workforce. We had music to this, but we couldn't because of copyright. so, anyhow, just bear with me. What was the song?
You gonna sing?
Home by Philip Phillips. It was really sort of catchy. So, thought a long time about that one, and we couldn't use it. But these are just local contractors that work within our developments. all the supplies that are bought locally. No, let's see. So that pavement is from the local plant down out, used to be Joe Dave's plant years ago. These are out at Sanders Landing. That's York County crew right there putting pipe in. That's, you know, the well. This is Joe Fall's crew over here in the Pines. That family's probably been building for like 40 or 50 years. This is our pavement over here at Sanders Landing that we're getting ready to put down. That one over to the left is MCF, Mike Ricarder, local group. Installation of septic. Usually runs a little smoother with the music. This is where we're putting a turn lane out on Highway 55. We did that last week as part of our traffic mitigation. This is where we're actually taking up some asphalt in the development as part of our 2-year warranty program. But what this is symbolizing is that if we can't get an equity and scale with the other building industry, then it's all going away. This is my Kerwood screen. It's a preview of upcoming attractions. So, anyhow, but when so this is just Henry's Glen. This was AGC zoning. So this was a nice development we did a few years ago. We did 1 to 3 acre home sites that, you know, actually we had some larger ones mixed in. But go ahead, this is here in the play. All these homes, by the way, are all but 4 are empty nesters. So this development, when we sell to individuals who then find a local builder. So the build out, by the way, is from when somebody buys a lot, building a home is usually 2.5 years. It's not an immediate impact. This is our road. Shot of one of those basins down to the right there. It's a big basin, and it's so big, not because of our road runoff, but we're collecting 20 acres of water from the farm next to us, so we have to take not only what we have. So, but this is what I wanted to show you. This is River Hills, you know, which was done in the 70s. And that's the way people that used to develop amongst the trees. I mean, those are smaller lots, and there's no reason that you can't go back to that. Our green space requirement right now is 20%. You know, you can do water and sewer developments and build amongst the trees. That's the landing, which was the last development that Crescent had that was not mass graded in the Lake Wiley area. That was done in '97. So there's no reason that we can't go back to that. So you could do mass grading but put more green space around it, or do 20% green space and just do a little bit larger lot, build on contour. And what that'll do is it'll strengthen the local builder community, which will strengthen local guys and gals buying from local suppliers. So in conclusion, what we said is, you know, we appreciate you guys. I wanted to mention at the last meeting, I think, and we had little clips of everybody, but every one of you sat in that seat last February and said, we're gonna support local builders. And I know you meant it. And we'd like to offer help because we're the ones that won't be around, or we'll have to go to Chester, or we'll have to go to Kings Mountain or whatever. But stormwater is moving in the right direction. You know, the overall thing is, and what you'll see next week, of course, is the big thing that's gonna hit us next week is the impact fee with Clover. That Sanders Landing development can't, at 367.5, can't take a 15,000. There's no reason for it. It's not the same area. It's not the same people. So anyhow, and as far as us and consistency down there, just give us the rules to play by and let us play the game. That's our presentation. I just want to strive local. We're all local. And it's our livelihood. You know, I was at Doug Smith's funeral yesterday. I mean, there was a guy that actually put the water lines in at Fort Mill and in Lake Wiley when they first went out. Doug built roads for us at Derby Downs and over at Vander Lakes and Patrick's Place. Just good people that I've gotten to know in this industry. And we've lost 5 this year, 5 people in our industry, some pretty young. It's not a very, well, it's stressful. This thing right here that I'm wearing is because my heart rate goes up all the time. So hopefully everything will be fine. And then as far as lastly, loyalty. You know, we're loyal in our industry to each other. We're all families. We're asking some loyalty from you guys. We need help. And if not, I mean, you guys have the opportunity to paint the future for residential development. And there's a balance that can be done. I'd like Tim to come up and Johnny to come up and talk just briefly, because they're the ones that make the difference. I'm just a developer, but they're the builders.
Good evening. I'd like to thank council and also staff for just everything you do and listening to us. And Tom, he's right. We've talked about this a lot, and I'm just gonna, I guess, a couple of things that hit on a couple of things that Tom really talked about. But you know, the front page of the Herald today talked about Fort Mill. May lower the entry fee for the for the homes and businesses because there's issues with it. Not on the big impact fee, but on the smaller one. It's a concern. This whole COVID deal is a concern. The local builders right now, they can't go to a bank and get a spec house loan, get a loan for a spec house. They used to, but now because of the economy, with COVID, with prices going up, the banks are conservative, they're not lending, so now a builder, if they don't have cash, they have to go, most of them go to a private investor and get money from them. Well, private investor's not giving them money for 5, 4, 6%. They're taking percent of profit, or they're taking a larger percent of interest because of the risk. It's stacking more, it's just stacking more expenses up there. It eats into their profit. You start talking about the lumber is up big time. The cost of lots that Tom has to make, or if I make lots or whoever makes them, it's going up. You throw an impact fee of on there. Not talking about Fort Mill, talking about Clover and potentially Rock Hill, potentially York School. That seems to be the big buzzword, but you keep stacking that on there and you just make it too cost prohibitive for a builder to take the risk and try and build spec homes in in York County. And we all live in a house in this area. And I'd say 80% of the people in this room that live in a house is probably built by a local builder, not a builder that comes in and takes off with all the money. One thing about the permitting I'll touch on is permitting is tough right now. And I know a lot of it's COVID related, but there's so many new staff members that I don't know where they don't call back, they don't email back. The senior or staff members that have been around a while, the seasoned staff members, they get back to you with questions. They answer, they get back to you on emails, but a lot of the new people, they need pushed. I'm not gonna go into details on some delays there, but they're horrendous. They truly are. I learned in business a long time ago. I had a very successful career in selling construction equipment up north, and one of the first things I was taught was if, you know, you get a phone call, you call it back. Even if you know you're gonna get an ass whooping, you call that person back and take your licking and then get down to business, fix the problem, but you call that person back. And to me, the kiss of death in business, and staff is in business, not getting back to somebody is pretty bad. You know, we're not calling to see how they're feeling today. I would guess any given day, things going through staff for like what Melissa did, you know, with subdividing land, stamping plats and whatnot, there's probably $100 million worth of business volume hanging out in that office somewhere daily that's getting held up. That's real money to people, and it causes big problems. You know, the impact fee that we're going to be talking about next week, I'm hearing numbers from the consulting company, and I'm not saying I'm totally against an impact fee, but it's just got to make sense. It's got to be reasonable, affordable, because when you just keep stacking more weight on the pile, you know, something's gonna break. It's funny, tonight we were upstairs talking and had a meeting last week, and I haven't been in a meeting. I've been here 15 years now. It was the first time I was in a meeting with 4 people, including myself, that said we're doing business in Chester County. And I don't want to go to Chester County. I'd prefer just to stay. I love York County. I mean, I love it. I moved from Ohio, and I'm in love with York County. It's been great to my family and I. And but it's just tough. It's tough doing what we do. And the whole mass grading thing. Hats off to Allison for pushing that, stopping at Lake Wiley. I was just in Atlanta for the weekend, and I'm like, holy cow, get me the heck out of here, because that's all you see down there. And York County's got beautiful topography, and the subdivisions that Tom's done, and having the, you know, 1 acre larger sites, it's beautiful instead of having the high density subdivisions. But that's primarily what I want to say. And again, thank you for your time and the job you guys do.
Thank y'all for taking the time to let us share some of our thoughts and concerns. My name's Johnny Nealons. I live at 3100 Filbert Highway, Clover, South Carolina. I'm a custom builder. I've lived in Clover 48 years. Started a construction business when I was 15 years old, working for local builders. I started my own company over 25 years ago. I've been in business in York County ever since. I have never until recently built anywhere outside of York County. I currently have a project in Chester. First, I have a few comments about the county stormwater department. Thanks to the county staff for helping us out recently with the regulations. It's been very tough over the last several years to get through the permitting process, the inspection process, the pre-construction meetings. It's just, as y'all have heard from Tom and Tim, it's just tough. But it seems to be moving in the right direction. I would just say that we feel like as small local builders in the past, we've just been thrown in the same barrel with the national builders that do the mass grading and the clear cutting, and that's just not who we are, especially Tom. So the little bit of clearing that we do, especially me as a custom builder, I mean, I just don't have an impact on the environment. It's just common sense. And as I said, I think it's heading in the right direction. I want to thank staff again, Mark Bolin. He's been working with us and trying to get some relief in that aspect, in that capacity. It is moving in the right direction. And then I have a few comments on this, the impact fee that Clover School District is trying to get you guys to go along with. I'd just like to give you an example. It's on a personal level, but it's true. It's 100% honesty, what I'm about to share with you. My mom's 72-year-old widow. She worked for the Clover School District for over 32 years. She's considering building a new home out in the Bethany community, which is west of Clover. Many years ago, our family, the McGills, was one of the first families to be in that area. If you look back on the records, you're gonna see the McGill name probably as far as record keeping goes back. So I don't think it's fair to penalize someone like my mom for building a new home. Keep in mind, she's 72 years old. She's been paying taxes, which school taxes her entire life, and presently has no impact at all whatsoever on the Clover School District. If I build her a new home in Bethany, it's probably gonna be a 12, 13, maybe 1,400 square foot house. She's on a fixed income. A fee of approximately $15,000 for a 1,300 square foot home for an elderly single woman is just not right. It's just not right. So the last point I'd like to make, or for you to consider, is the house my mom currently lives in. If she does go through and we build her a new home, there could be a family from out of state move into her home with, just hypothetically, they have 3 children. They're going to have an impact on the Clover School District, and they will have no fee. That just doesn't make sense to me. But again, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to share those thoughts with you, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Just thanks for having us tonight. And, you know, in talking with a good friend of mine on the Clover School District Board, I mean, our boys played baseball together. You know, they look at that high fee because they don't have anything else to look at that will control the amount of growth that's coming in as far as the production build. And we need production build, but there's a way to slow it down. The 20 acres limited to 20 is just the first step. Jonathan, you've got Diane, you've got good staff here. But you know what? Putting 50% green space on mass grading will halt those guys and slow them down. And that's a very, very simple thing to do. It's not green space, it's open space, right, Jonathan? That's right. Okay, so I'm just telling you, either that or leave it at 20% open space and you build on grade amongst the trees. It's a very simple thing to do. Sometimes I think we overthink things. I mean, that's why the UDO got thrown out. It took 2.5 years for staff to whittle through it. By the time we got it in place, it went out the window. So please think about doing something sooner than later. And I can tell you, if the Clover School District sees that, they'll be okay with a lower rate. But we got to do it together. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom. Sonny McCrory to address council regarding the Encourage and Serve Club of America.
It's good to see you all again. Last time I came, I sort of talked about the problems, but it's gotten worse, I guess, since that time. And I know everybody's having difficult times, and we're going to have to get the families together. I'm just wanting to talk to you a little bit about my Encourage and Serve Club of America and the World.Inc. I wanted to let you know what the mission is. And actually, I haven't been able to get it started for several reasons. Number one, during the last 5 or 6 years, I've had 2 children, or grown children, that died. And that has affected my attitude. So all of us are affected by, life. But the mission that this program has is to encourage and serve families first. Families that are our city families, our state families, our country family, the entire world. The main purpose of this is to create a better atmosphere for people to live in a better way without as much stress and more working together. And it's primarily to bring people together justly. Life matters, all life matters. Show respect to everyone, that matters probably more than anything else. Most of us, sometimes we don't show respect for everybody. Everybody deserves respect. They deserve to have a good life. All of us do. But we've stopped helping each other the way we have in the past. If you look at our country right now with all the this pandemic, it's really difficult on people. And the icon is in regard to serving families, values, wisdom, ethics, charity, fostering education, fun, dancing, movement, sports to all, and to avoid and not fear the future. Serve in choices that make young people not make big mistakes like they do now. And that starts from age 0 to 7 years of age. To be very honest about it, what I have observed over the years, and I'll be 81 this year, in October, and I believe that we have let go of the morals of our country and our world as far as that part goes. Of course, money is important, but there's good money and there's bad money. Bad money creates things that create problems, and good money solves problems. This program I have it includes, serving is a different thing. Serving has to do with justice. I don't know about justice in our society today. People are not very happy and they get involved in things they shouldn't be involved in. Truth and justice. We should love others, but we also should love ourselves. You know, some of us don't realize some of the things that we do create wrong. And you know what's wrong with wrong? It's wrong. A lot of young people are coming up being involved in drugs, and it's very bad for our country. In 1970, we opened the door to all the drugs all over the world. You know, the politicians did not do anything to help it. It should have been stopped then, but it didn't. We've let people come into our country that weren't for our country. They came into our country and they began doing drugs and selling drugs. And you know, the big number of people that started taking these drugs were Americans. It has really done a lot of damage to our country. That's the reason from 0 to 7, people should be taught by their mothers and their fathers. And I believe that our government should pay people to take care of their children themselves. They don't even know their children. A lot of them don't realize how their children really are till this pandemic comes. All of a sudden, they're there with them. They don't even know them. They didn't know them. And we're so busy when we are parents. I remember when I had small children and everything. You go to everything to try to help them. But you know how much encouraging them to serve each other, to be loyal to the family, not do things that cause destruction to themselves and other people. You know, a lot of people are in fear right now in this country. They've lost their jobs, they've lost their way, they've lost their They think the future, but it's not gone. This is a time that a program like this would start serving educational material and literary information and parents teaching them to do the right things, to improve their lives, to get good, hard-working jobs, be proud of your job, be proud of your race. All of us, no matter what race we are, we should be proud of our race. But we're supposed to be proud of the race of the world. There's a lot of problems in the world. This program primarily would help a lot in just about every family that is staying at home, that are not communicating, that are having difficult times, and even, if things keep going the way they are, we might have a situation that there's not going to be food for people. There's not going to be the things that's needed. The government needs to have a place that anybody can call if they don't have food, if they don't have clothing, if they don't have shelter. These things are the important things in life right now. I've been trying to get this started. I've been talking to Ralph Norman. He's told me if I get a board, which I have not had a chance to get the board. I have had good people at times, but because of things that have happened, I haven't been able to follow through with it. I have to take care of my family first, but I don't have a family to take care of right now. We have to begin creating good works, good jobs, improve values. We've lost all our values for money. Money is important, and we have to have it. But we need to use it in such a way it's going to improve our lives. And that's what this program is about. It's a gift that we have, and if we don't learn at home the way we should use it, we may not ever use it. Even though we may get good jobs, but the family has been left behind. Everybody is doing what they're doing on their jobs. But I think that the three things that are most important is values, ethics, and virtues. These things help improve everybody's life. I'm not going to take any more time on this. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope I want to encourage you to, women that have children, they should hold their children's hands and let them know that they love them, and they should be backed by their children. And their children should never lose respect of their mother and father. And this is what this is about. And I'm just asking, I'm going to go try to become more involved in speaking, but I'm going to go and try to get a board that's going to be totally truthful, totally want justice, totally want to live according to what used to be what we thought as the American way. Thank you very much. And Brett, thank you for letting me talk.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Yes, sir. Move to go into executive session for receipt of legal advice and consider mediated settlement for condemnation, South Carolina 557, tracks 26, 28, and 29. Receipt of legal advice on condemnation of Penny's Project 11149-004, track 89A. And Britt, I think I might need to come see you for an eye appointment because I asked Michael where this next one was at, and it's already printed on here. So, receipt of legal advice, application of the county COVID-19 employee bonus.
All those in favor say aye. We're in executive session. Council is back. Council is back in session. Are there any motions following executive session?
Yes, sir. Motion to approve mediated settlement agreement for condemnation, South Carolina 557, tracks 26, 28, and 29.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, motion passes.
Motion to condemn Penny's Project 11149-004, track 89A.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, motion passes. There are no further motions, correct? Correct. Excellent. Motion to adjourn, please. Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.
Michael, when you get